Our founding fathers understood that what makes a country great, it isn't necessarily its land, it's not its wealth, but it's the people that reside within it. No time in history before them had there been a constitution or a legal document set forth to govern a nation that relied on the individual and personal freedom and personal responsibility. That is the ideology that made the United States great and continues great. But as we go, we see that that's changing. We stand on the shoulders of giants, whether it be educators in the past, whether it be our forefathers, whether it be our veterans that fought and died for our great country, whether it be mothers or fathers that raised generations of great children, whether it be entrepreneurs that created jobs, whether it be the slaves that were freed and went on to become successful and do their own job to prove that if they were left alone, they too could succeed. Those ideas of personal freedom and personal responsibility and the great ancestors we have before us have made us what we are today. We don't want to be the generation that lets that slide. Today we see that it's been going on for decades, that normal Americans and their personal freedom and responsibility has slowly eroded away. This is because all of our cultural institutions of power are dominated by the establishment, and particularly an establishment leftist ideology. This means that things like hard work and personal responsibility have been replaced with things such as victimhood and claiming that you're perpetually a victim and that's somehow worth something. A normal American works 9 to 5 and they just want to be left alone by the government. I've grown up in rural Pennsylvania my whole life. The people that I respect, the people I think are the salt of this country, are blue-collar workers that I see every day, my family and friends. Whether they be truck drivers, welders, they hunt for recreation and for a livelihood. Whether it be carpenters, whether it be educators or people in the service industry. These people just want to go to work, provide for their family, have a good life, and be left alone. Where is their voice? They've been drowned out amongst a chorus of the establishment left that controls all of our cultural institutions of power that shape the public narrative. The mainstream media, which comes almost 95% from the establishment leftist perspective. The same is true of academia. The same is true of our entertainment industry in Hollywood. And you could also say that of the people that control Silicon Valley and many of these social media corporations. Imagine it. You work 9 to 5, you come home, want to relax, you turn on your local news. All of the information you get is from this establishment leftist perspective. So you turn the news off and maybe you get ready for your night class that you're taking. That academia is almost entirely coming from that establishment leftist perspective. So you say, you know what, I just want to forget about it all and tune on some television, something entertaining. So you turn on a late night comedy show. All of it's dominated by the exact same ideology, this establishment leftist perspective. So then maybe you go onto Facebook or Twitter or YouTube in order to talk to people that maybe share your life experience. But again, those are all ran by organizations and companies that come from that same establishment leftist perspective. And make no mistake about it, this isn't the leftist that's my friend or my neighbor that I'm talking about. These are oligarchs. These are people in the establishment, the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, that are really the movers and shakers and control the direction of our country. They don't care about normal Americans. The idea that it's left versus right, sure, there are things we disagree on, and I'm honest in this channel that I'm coming from the right. But I welcome my friends from the left that understand also that this corruption in the establishment needs to be fought. Until we fight back against this corruption, it doesn't matter if we're Democrats, Republicans, none of it will matter. Because the people that really control this country don't care about me and yours voice. The election of Donald Trump was the first time in my life that we see the possibility of outing the corruption of this establishment. And yet, and despite this, we see that the establishment is laughing. They think that they're still winning. People like James Comey that ran the FBI as a personal mercenary squad for the Democrats and Barack Obama laugh as they escape indictment after indictment, even as their crimes are made public for all to see. The media covers for them and celebrates this corruption. Academia and the entertainment industry in Silicon Valley go along with this. Where are the voices for normal Americans? But there is good news. There are people that are rising up. There are people that are running for office. There are people that are doing independent channels. There are people waking up by the millions that understand how corrupt this system is. Just the Iowa caucus starts to show many people on the left that didn't want to see it, how corrupt the DNC and the establishment is. We should be reaching out and talking to all these people and making allies to fight back against this corruption. My channel is about being a voice for normal Americans, whether you're a blue-collar worker in rural Pennsylvania that's been maligned as clinging to your guns and Bible, that's been called a racist deplorable, Or maybe you're in the inner city and you grew up in a single parent household and you've been told you're a victim your whole life and you're just trying to succeed, but everything tells you, no, you're a victim. Don't try to go out and have personal responsibility and achieve on your own. Or anyone in between. This is a show for you. We are here to discuss the issues of normal Americans, to bring truth to everyday people that it's been hidden from by the oligarchs that really control our country and the establishment. They need to control the flow of information and all of those cultural institutions of power that I mentioned in order to make sure that they could pass their agenda, because they know the secret. If the normal person, if the average American were to find out how corrupt this was, they wouldn't stand for it. The way we win this battle is by bringing information to the millions and millions of Americans that have been lied to, that through the sweat of their labor, through their hard work, have enriched corrupt politicians, have enriched corrupt people in the media and other corrupt people that aren't elected in office like these bureaucrats, that have outsourced our wealth to other countries to further enrich the politicians that send that wealth over there. If the average and normal American wakes up to this, we can begin taking back our country. The war will be fought with information. That is what my channel and so many of the channels I'm associated are trying to do. That's what we're trying to do today. So please, I encourage you, follow my channel, support it, follow other independent content creators, follow the people that I'm connected to, and even if you're on the left, follow independent content creators on the left. But take away this gatekeeping power of the establishment to control all flow of information. Real people with facts and truth on their side do not hide from the First Amendment. We don't hide from open speech and open debate. We'll bring diverse opinions on. We'll bring people that disagree because we understand that we're about the flow of information and allowing everyone to make up their own mind. We do not need to censor voices like the establishment. So I welcome to my channel, the Normal America channel, and I hope that you'll enjoy yourself. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good one. Hello. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Should be a good show tonight. Thank you so much, Abaddon. How's it doing? Great to have you back on D Live there. Yeah, right, Sweet Cheeks. We'll be talking about that. The big story that I want to talk about today is the video I did today about Kaitlin Bennett, known as Gun Girl, and the mob that surrounded her and harassed her, attacked her at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. So that'll be the big story. But just before we get started, thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Angel. Talked to you on the phone last night. And it was a pleasure talking to you on the phone on the Patriot panel. For those of you who didn't check that out last night, go ahead. It's on my channel. You can check out the full recorded version there. Sorry we had a little tech difficulties at the beginning, so I did say 8 o'clock, and it was 8 sharp, and it's now 8:01. So you're right, Mark. I screwed up there. I was a minute late. I didn't anticipate how long my awesome intro is. What do you think of the intro? I like it. It was just me coming up with my feelings on why I do my show. And everything is doing well, Grant. Midnight Special almost. Yeah, Roger. That's the freeware version of Midnight Special. Fair use. So, but yeah, I had a blast doing that intro. And my buddy Chirby edited it with the sound and everything behind it, the music. So I think it came out really well. I'm happy with it. So I'll do a new one every now and then. But yeah, I'm happy with that one right now. So I think it turned out well. Plus, it's got a timer so everyone can see when I'm coming on live. So yeah, let's get into it. One thing I'll say real quick, I have people watching me on Facebook, I have people on D Live, people on YouTube. So I supposedly can see everyone's chats from all the... If someone does a super chat on YouTube, which for those of you who don't know, if you're on a different platform, it's where they donate money and their chat comes up. Please just let me know, someone, so I can thank you, because on the thing I'm using, I'm not actually on my YouTube channel, so I can't see it. I don't want you to think that I'm someone that's a jerk that's not willing to say thank you to the people that are supporting me. So, all right. So let's do it. Let's jump right into this. Yeah, Kaitlin Bennett. Unbelievable. I don't know what else to say about it other than unbelievable. What happened to this girl was disgusting, and what I'll do is I'll show you the beginning of my video on YouTube so you can check it out for yourself. But what it was she's a girl, she goes by Gun Girl. She was open carrying an AR-15 on our campus 2 years ago and kind of became notable for that. She's, been someone that's got hired by InfoWars, I believe. She's connected to them, which is Alex Jones' outfit. And, she's a conservative journalist. Now, people could complain about Alex Jones, they can complain about her, and they will, and we'll talk about all those complaints. But she has a right as a journalist to go out and do what she wants. And one of the things I say about the people that complain about Alex Jones, and is he really a journalist? Is he this terrible conspiracy theorist, etc., etc.? He's more of a journalist than the people we see in the mainstream media. He's less of a conspiracy theorist than the people we see in the mainstream media. They think Epstein killed himself. They buy the Russian collusion hoax that they peddled for 3 years. So I'm not about to make fun of Alex Jones or someone who works for his company and somehow they're not worthy of respect or to be treated like you would expect anyone who has a point of view, particularly in public, like on a college campus. But this is one of the excuses you hear over and over. Oh, she's an antagonizer. Oh, she's just an attention whore. As if the entire mainstream media isn't both of those things. Do you think that if Jim Acosta was assaulted like this at a Trump rally, that everyone would be saying, well, that's the way it goes? Of course not. So let me see if I can bring this up. And we'll talk about it. So let me play this for you. And you can see exactly what they did to this girl. Is the audio not working? The audio's not working. 1 second. I don't know what I'm doing here. What is wrong? Oh, I know what's going on. Ooh, this stupid computer. For some reason, sometimes when I plug my mic in, it wants to put the audio device through it, and then the sound doesn't work. So this should be with the sound.
Get a picture with me. Get a picture with me.
See them throwing things? Everyone's pleased. Some liquid just hit her.
That's not hateful, is it?
Watch. See? She just saw something hit her. One of the most privileged people in the world yelling about someone not understanding oppression.
Someone just poured hot coffee on me. I dare you to push me again. I'm not punching.
This is a tactic. You see how she's getting pushed and the girl's saying, stop pushing me? You see that?
I got it on video. Exactly. That's the audio again. I dare you. Poured hot coffee on me. All right, I'm coming back to this campus in a couple weeks. That's somebody's car. They say they're tolerant and they're loving.
See how they're keeping the door closed so she can't get out? We got them attacking the vehicle.
They're still throwing stuff.
You need to back up.
Joel, shut your window, Joel. These cops are watching this happen. There's another one. They're still throwing stuff.
Well, let me exit out of there and go back to, so you can see my beautiful face. See, aren't I so much better than those nasty mobsters on the college campuses? So there's a lot to say about this. The first is, let's talk about the video itself and what this actually shows. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make this into something like she was physically manhandled, beaten, had to go to the hospital. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But it doesn't need to get to that level because this sort of stuff's sanctioned by universities and by the campus police, as we'll get to in a minute, it allows this sort of behavior to intimidate and keep people with differing views off of campuses. That's the intent. They'll resort to more violence as necessary. If the administration wasn't helping these violent mobs that are on the left and are these progressives that are college students, then they would enact more violence. This is something I say constantly when people say, well, actually, there's more violence from right-wing terrorism. One, those statistics are skewed, include all kinds of crazy things like white supremacist gangs in prison. They include that as right-wing terrorism, but they don't include black gangs or Hispanic gangs as left-wing terrorism. So we see things like that. And not only is it just that they're skewed, but I contend that if we actually had a fair system of justice that would start cracking down on Antifa mobs or college mobs like this, they will then resort to using the next weapon in their arsenal. In other words, you don't need to resort to the most base, extreme things, even though sometimes they do, when you have the establishment on your side. And they do, make no mistake about it. The establishment Democrat Party, the mainstream media, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley, and certainly academia all have these violent thugs back. All of them. It's evident by the statement that the police put out. They're groveling to these mobs. They're saying, oh, all you did was splash a little water on her. It was totally cool. We don't mind. We didn't arrest anyone, we promise. It was her fault for coming. That's what the police told that mob. So let's go through the video specifically, some of the things you saw. Although she wasn't physically beat, the first thing I want to say is this. Remember, I argued over and over with the left of the idea of surrounding someone. So if you go way back to the Charlottesville incident. Now, Charlottesville, many people forget, it was actually a 2-night event. The first night, you did have a lot of white nationalists that showed up and were marching on the statue with tiki torches. I have no love for any of that crowd. I don't like identity politics when it's on the left. I don't like it when it's on the right. Racial politics are a huge mistake and danger as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think these were good people. But nonetheless, they're allowed to speak as well. Now, Vice News embedded itself with a bunch of college students that intentionally surrounded the statue that they knew was the rally point for these people holding tiki torches. When it got there, I watched the film carefully. Now again, I'm not saying I'm defending the people holding tiki torches. I despise their ideology. But there was a violent interaction that occurred. And when you looked, it was hard to determine who threw the first punch, who started the first violence. There was mace sprayed and all sorts of things like that. Now, what I was told was that my search in the video to look for who started the violence was irrelevant because the act of surrounding someone is itself an act of violence. I had person on the left after person on the left tell me this. I said, okay, the very next week there was a free speech rally in Boston. Now, there were some people from the Unite the Right rally initially invited, but they were all canceled. So basically what you had was, there was an Indian gentleman who was running for Congress against a Democrat. He had 6 or 7 speakers that showed up. They wanted to talk about the importance of free speech. Many of them were minorities. None of them have any connections to white supremacist groups whatsoever. Yet despite that, 40,000 people marched in Boston to protest the idea of free speech. I watched the entire 7-hour video, timestamped the entire thing, and went through every time I saw some violent activity, and every single time it was directed at Trump supporters. They were surrounded, they were beaten, they were spit on. When they tried to exit the venue, they were attacked. The police that sometimes let them be attacked, but sometimes tried to help them out, they were attacked by the violent mob. And despite all of this, after 7 hours of watching this and outlining incident after incident, the chief of police in Boston the mayor of Boston came out and said, it went off without a hitch. Love conquered hate today. They silenced a free speech movement with violence and intimidation surrounding Trump supporter after Trump supporter, and they declared that love conquering hate. So in just 1 week, the very people that told me, well, the white nationalists that surrounded these college students, the act of surroundings and the act of violence itself, in just 1 week it took them to say, oh, but those damn Trump supporters, they deserve to get surrounded and spit on and be attacked and things like that. That's different. They knew what they were walking into. Do you see the double standard? So we need to make up our mind. Is it an act of violence to surround someone or not? I would say it depends. If they try to get out and you don't let them, that seems like that's problematic. If you're in their face, shoving them, spitting on, throwing things at them, then yes, that's a problem. But if someone decides to tie themselves to a statue that you know there's going to be a rally around, I don't know if the surrounding itself's an act of violence. Now, no doubt, those white nationalists were not good people, right? No doubt, I'm not defending that. And no doubt they were willing participants in the violence when it kicked off. And some of them may have started it. I don't know. So I'm not saying that they're not to blame there with those tiki torches. I'm just saying it's funny the double standard within a week's time. Now, fast forward to the Covington situation. Remember, the media was aghast. You had to watch people like Reza Aslan from CNN say that, what's his name? Nathan Phillips, he was surrounded by Nicholas Sandmann, was the kid. Nicholas Sandmann had the most punchable face he'd ever seen. Media person after media person going after Sandmann and all these Covington kids. What was their crime? Well, the initial video that was selectively edited showed what? These kids surrounded a Native American man who was just trying to peacefully play his drum. Oh, it was horrible. Could you believe the smirk? My God, can you believe what they did to this poor man? I don't recall anyone saying, hey, it was that Native American's fault for walking into the crowd. What was that Native American doing going into so many hostile people that didn't want to hear his message? I don't recall that at all. And it turned out, unlike with this situation with Caitlin Bennett, Nathan Phillips, the Native American, lied about the entire situation. He later admitted he was defending the adult racists from the Black Hebrew Israelites that were hurling racial slurs at the kids. And homophobic slurs as well. He thought that, this is Nathan Phillips, right? Here's an adult watching a bunch of adult racists yell homophobic and racial slurs at a kid. And he sits there watching it and goes, I think I better intervene on the behalf of the adult racist. That's Nathan Phillips. Then he lied and said he was surrounded. Then he lied and said that he couldn't escape. Then he lied and said he feared for his life. All lies. Just like he lied about his service record in the military. All lies. Yet the left went nuts at the idea that some Native American man could have been surrounded. Now, it's the exact opposite argument here. Oh, Caitlin Bennett had it coming. She had this coming. How didn't she know that she was entering hostile territory? Oh, they didn't do anything that bad. So right out of the gate, you could see the discrepancy. And this is always the case. And I'll show you some quotes later. I'm not going to go to Twitter. I'm going to go to Above Top Secret and conversations I was having. Now, I made the mistake of not pulling up the cops' comments, but I'll try to get up here before we go. So, other things that happened. Yes, there was toilet paper thrown at her. So, what's that about? Apparently, this girl, there's supposedly a picture circulating that may be her, where she, pooped her pants at a party or something. I said poop on a live stream. I don't care. Irrelevant. So what? Isn't it funny how that type of thing, that sort of childish, oh, we're going to throw toilet paper at you. I mean, whatever. If you think it's funny, it's funny. It's not funny to throw toilet paper at her. And I'm not saying the toilet paper was a danger. But if you did the same, right? Like, imagine that you started throwing paper towels at Bill Clinton. You said, like, yeah, you left some of your semen on Monica Lewinsky's dress, right? Here's some paper towels to clean up. We're all going to throw paper towels at Bill Clinton. How do you think that would have went over? It'd been a little different, huh? Talking about that sort of bodily fluid, that wouldn't be acceptable. Here's something, and they threw water on her. She claims they threw coffee at her. Now, I recall twice in that video that I saw, once when the black girl was right in front of her face, you could see something heavy came through, and that girl goes, like, she could tell. And then there's another point when they're walking out, and you hear something go, bam, and slam off a car. You could audibly hear it. These weren't marshmallows. And even a cup throwing a cup, although it's unlikely, and again, I'm not saying it rises to the level of violence of like holding someone down and beating them. But what happens if that cup like hits her in the eye and she ends up getting damaged in the eye? Maybe unlikely, but that's assault. That's the legal definition of assault. You can't put your hands on people. You can't throw things at people. I'm not saying it's assault that people should be in jail for 50 years for. That's not what I'm saying. But it's assault. It's a crime. No, I've seen people get charged for disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace for having their radio too loud. Or pushing someone outside a bar. Or throwing a cup inside a bar. I've seen all those charged. But if it's a conservative journalist and it's a mob of people doing it to them, the police sat there with smiles on their face and let it happen, didn't they? So let's not act like these weren't acts of violence that were perpetuated against her. Now, the next thing that's worth talking about is, it's not just that she was surrounded. Like, you could deal with that. They're literally touching her. Literally. And you see this all the time from particularly the feminist crowd, the Antifa crowd. They do this all the time. They get in your face and start shoving you and go, stop touching me! Stop touching me! You're pushing me! As they shove you and push you. And Caitlin's like, I'm not touching you. Then how did I fall down? I don't know, maybe because there's a mob of people and someone stepped on your feet. Maybe because you're a clumsy oaf. I don't know. But that sort of thing they constantly do. It's like the old, elementary school. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? They shove you and then say, oh, we're touching, it's your fault. It is clear to anyone with a brain that they invaded her personal space. And that's designed to intimidate. That's exactly what it is. Absolutely. And it should not be allowed. The police should have stepped in and said, look, if you want to yell at her, that's fine. You don't get to throw things. You don't get to get right in her face like that. You don't. You start touching her and pushing her, that's assault. Thank God she had a bodyguard there. Now notice that same girl that was doing that, quite the specimen she is, right? She starts yelling, you don't even know what oppression is. Like these students do? I love this idea that you see on college campuses where these people are talking about oppression. Now let me preface this by saying I was a college student not all that long ago. I'm 35. I know what it's like to be promised, go to college, get a great job, get an incredible amount of student loan debt, and then not be able to get a job with my degree. But it was still my decision. Nonetheless, I want to talk a little about people that went to universities like this. First off, I went to one of the cheapest universities possible, Clarion University, a state school here in Pennsylvania. I worked at Burger King. I took out huge student loans to be able to get through university. Now, I drank a lot and partied a lot too. I'm not going to lie to you. My debt's my problem. I could have done it faster and better, but I didn't. I took longer because I was partying. But despite that, I recognized, despite that I was poor, despite that I was trying to work a job while I was in university and I took a bunch of loans out in debt, I'm here to tell you that I am one of the most privileged people in the history of the world. I'm one of the most privileged people alive today, and I'm certainly one of the most privileged in the history of the world. First off, if you're born in the United States, almost no matter what your circumstances, you're already among one of the most privileged people in the history of the world, with some exceptions. If you're born with a terminal illness, that's obviously something. Second, if you're healthy, relatively healthy, you're already one of the most privileged people in the history of the world. If you're healthy enough and born in the United States and capable to make it to university, you're nearing the top of the top. And if you're in an Ivy League school and you're yelling about privilege, shut your mouth, because you are literally the 1%. So what we're talking about here is these people that are screaming about oppression and privilege. Sure, there's some people more privileged than them, but they're in the top 95th percentile. So maybe they're 96%, they're the top 4%. But they're upset that there's people that are the top 3%. That's what we're quibbling about? They never acknowledge their own privilege. They just scream about oppression and you don't know what it's like to be a victim. What about you as victim? I saw a video that was circulating on Twitter today with a gender binary person talking about how oppressive it is when they try to go get a haircut because they're neither male or female, and so it's hard to get a hairstyle. That doesn't make you a victim. That's your choice. Some of us are balding. Am I a victim? Maybe I am. Maybe I should join the movement. So for this girl to be yelling about oppression, they have no idea what they're talking about at all. And that's another thing. When I get you to the comments that I was dealing with today online, that's something you'll pick up on. Everyone tells me she's Hitler. Everyone tells me Caitlin Bennett's a bigot, this horrible person. I'm like, oh, okay, what did she do? What issue does she have that's so bad? No one can tell you. Well, I just heard from media. I heard from social media accounts. It's the same every time you see these college campuses, like Ben Shapiro is coming to campus. They all protest. Well, what is it you dislike about Ben Shapiro? They can't tell you. Milo Yiannopoulos, what exactly did he say? Can't tell you. Gavin McInnes, can't tell you. Ann Coulter, can't tell you. Charles Murray, can't tell you. Right? Then you have people like Christine Fiamengo, I think's her name. She calls herself the factual feminist. She gets boycotted. Why? They can't tell you. They don't know. They're just lemmings that listen to these people that control them, say, oh, that's a bad person, go get them. Yes, sir. That's what it is. And they think they're individualistic. They think, not only do they think they're morally superior to you, but they actually think they're more intelligent than you. And they have no idea what they're protesting. I mean, you see videos like this all the time. They'll show pictures of kids in cages. What do you think of this? Trump's the worst. Trump's evil, blah, blah, blah. That was actually taken in 2014 under Barack Obama. Oh, that's okay. What do you think about these quotes? Oh, that's quotes of a dictator. That's terrible. Yeah, that was actually Barack Obama's quotes. Oh. Now, look, any of us could be confused and fall for something like that. And I don't blame even the people for being ignorant. But when you blame them is when they're ignorant, but they have the utmost confidence that they're not ignorant, that they know more than you. That's when it becomes frustrating. And then add on top of that, they're willing to use violence and intimidation to shut you up. That's when the problems start to develop. So that's exactly what we see here. Now, I'm not going to bring up, I didn't have it with me, but you can easily Google and find the police statement. And basically what the police statement says is they released a statement yesterday in the Ohio University Police, and it basically says, I'll sum it up. It's 3 paragraphs, and it says something like this. It's like, we weren't given forewarning that she was coming, so she had the right to be here, but we'd appreciate if there was forewarning so we could have set up a better system to protect her. So they're basically blaming her, and then they're like, yeah, and there wasn't any violence. A cup of water was allegedly thrown by a person or persons, but no violence. No one was arrested. The only thing we did was move people out of the way of sidewalks. We'd appreciate if next time an activist like this comes that they contact us first. Now, when the people that are tasked with keeping you safe stand around and laugh as you're being mobbed and attacked like this, what do you do? And one of the things I said in my video today was I likened this to the story I heard of a rabbi in New York City. Now, this rabbi's upset that Jews are being singled out and attacked, not by Trump supporters, so it's not in the media. No one cares. If it's not some white guy that identifies as a Trump supporter, they don't care. The people that are attacking these Jews, they don't look like Trump supporters. They look like Farrakhan supporters is what they look like. You know, Farrakhan, the guy that was taking pictures with Obama in the Black Congressional Caucus over and over again. That Farrakhan that hates Jews and likened them to termites a week before the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. You know, that guy, buddy of the Democrats. Never hear that called out. Never hear his followers called out that hate Jewish people. Or the Black Hebrew Israelites that attacked the Covington kids. Yes, of course they have vitriol against transgender, gay people, women, white people, but they save their most hatred for the Jews, don't they? But that's fine. The only time you can mention anti-Semitism is if you can connect Trump to it in some way. So this rabbi said, look, the mayor's not doing anything, de Blasio's not doing anything, and he orders the police not to do anything. So we're attacked over and over. And then you had that incident where a cop and 2 Jewish people were shot at a deli, a kosher deli. And this rabbi said, they're putting us in a corner. They won't defend us. Now, we could take care of this, and we'll be forced to take care of this. But look at what they did to the Proud Boys. This is what they do. They leave the mobs from the left attack you over and over and over as the politicians and the police sit there and watch them. And then when you defend yourself, they jump in and say, you're the aggressor. You need to go to jail. You need to be dealt with. And the media goes, oh my God, the Proud Boys, they should be a terrorist organization. Oh, they're horrible people. Now let me take this moment to say, just because I think that Antifa is horrible, that doesn't mean that individual Proud Boys couldn't have taken individual criminal actions that they deserve to be punished for. And I'm not going to claim to be up on each and every court case that they suffered. And I've personally seen videos of them behaving dumbly, like trying to engage in mutual combat that they set up times before. It's stupid. But in the context that they originally formed, basically as a joke group, because they got tired of seeing conservatives trying to march and getting beat like at Berkeley. So they said, you know what, we'll show up, and if people start throwing punches, we'll throw punches back. If they're the instigators, that's one thing. But that was the idea. They get totally demonized. Now, Proud Boys aside, what this rabbi is saying is true. He knows, look, you want to be a violent thug? We can get violent too. We can do it. We'll defend ourselves. But it's not just that. It's not just your group that's defending themselves against the violent mob. And this is what the point I really want to get home to everyone, right? There's 2 points on this story I want to get home. This is the first point. I've said for years now, the problem with Antifa and these violent mobs isn't just them. Look, it's bad enough that we have who knows how many people, particularly young people, indoctrinated on college campuses. A lot of Bernie supporters, right? That truly believe that they're justified to use violence to censor and intimidate their political opposition. And this is so prevalent on college campuses that administrators that created the monster are now fearful of this mob. We've seen it all the way back at Missouri. We see it at Yale, Ohio, Evergreen, on and on, Berkeley. So they live in fear. They could riot. They could lock the chancellor or the administrators in buildings like they did at Evergreen. And everything goes unpunished. right? We see that constantly. And by the way, before I get to my point, let me say this here. Always put the shoe on the other foot. This was a journalist, albeit maybe one that's seeking attention. That's fine. Imagine if this was Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton's someone who's done all sorts of despicable things in his career. He's an attention whore if I've ever seen one. Imagine that he showed up and a gang of college students, predominantly white, started throwing things at him, harassing him, surrounding him, shoving him, wouldn't leave him get in his vehicle to escape, etc. What do you think the news cycle would have been today? What do you think those police would have done? What do you think the administration at the university would have done? Would they just have said, hey, it was just some water spilled on him? Notice these things always go the same. Show me one time that a liberal speaker has been treated like this. I could show you dozens of incidents in the opposite way where a conservative person on campus is mobbed like this. Show me one time with a liberal. But I keep hearing both sides do it. Okay. Show me the conservatives do it. I'll call it out. I don't see it. Please, someone show me the evidence. So imagine this was Sharpton, or it was Jim Acosta, or, whoever. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Insert your left-wing figure. How do you think that would go over? Particularly if it was a woman. Oh, did you see those violent men in our face? But that's perfectly fine, right? We just have to let that go. So anyways, the point I was getting to is these mobs could be dealt with. I abhor political violence. Abhor it. I talk against it all the time in my show. I always will. But when you are physically attacked, you have the right to defend yourself. You do. And if these people showed up and everything was fair and there was no law, just say there was no law enforcement, and they decided to violently attack you, and these people that are engaged in free speech fought back, it would be dealt with. It'd be bloody, it'd be violent, people on both sides would be harmed. We should do everything we can to avoid that consequence, but it would be solved. Eventually, this sort of stuff would stop, because the consequences of the attackers would be that they get fought, they are harmed back with physical violence as well. Again, I'm not recommending this, but that would be the consequence if there was no law enforcement, if it was the Wild West. Gang of people come, start throwing their weight around. Eventually, the people of the town that are peaceful get furious and they deal with it. That's what the Wild West was about. But what makes this uniquely dangerous, what makes it horrendous, more dangerous than a group like the KKK or something like this, is the following. When the KKK acts a fool and does stuff like this, which is rare nowadays, there's hardly anyone in it, everyone realizes it's a joke, but that's the point. Law enforcement's against them, the politicians on all sides against them, the public's against them, everyone hates them. It would be political poison as a politician to say, by the way, I'm a member of the KKK, or I support the KKK, I think they make good points. Everyone right and left would condemn you and say, get out of here. We don't want this garbage. But you could say that about Antifa on the left. You could support them. You could cheer for them. You could say what they're doing is not that bad, that their heart's in the right place. Absolutely you can. That's power. Their power is, we can attack you with impunity. And if you retaliate, we have the establishment on our side. We have law enforcement on our side. That's power. Now, am I saying the individual cop's terrible? No, probably not. But they're following orders. Just go to Oregon. Go to Portland. The police just are helpless. They have to stand it. Go to New York City. You see those cops of people attacking, throwing water on the police and all that stuff? The police are told by the leadership, by the mayor, you can't respond. You can't arrest these people. Maybe it's time for police officers to start disobeying the unconstitutional orders that they're given. Maybe it's time for them to realize that the chain of command is less important than keeping the peace. But still, I'm not directly blaming the police officers as much as I'm blaming the leadership, the people that are telling the police officers what to do. I've said for years, I'm the only person I know that talks about this. You will start to see the violence of groups like Antifa. Eventually, Antifa or one of these college mobs, they're going to kill someone or they're going to severely harm them. And then all of a sudden, all the people that gave them lip service are going to be like, oh, we didn't mean that. We didn't know that they could be dangerous. We didn't know. And they'll do something so heinous that then we have to back off. And they'll virtue signal, all these people in the establishment, they'll virtue signal then against Antifa. They'll virtue signal against these mobs. And they'll say, oh, yeah, we didn't know it was about that. And then, if there's ever a point where the law enforcement, the leadership says, okay, now we have to act. We have to start arresting these people. That's when you'll see the violence. That's when it'll kick off to the next level. You use the tools that are available to you when you're talking about political discourse, political wins, motivations. I was talking to my friend Dustin, who's the producer of the Super Panel, great guy. I was talking to him last night, and we were talking about Saul Alinsky and these tactics. He was a great community organizer, but as Dustin was telling me, he could only see 3 feet in front of his face. He saw a goal, he organized to achieve getting that goal, but he didn't see the long-term consequences of it. He didn't care. It was about ruthlessly winning for him, right? That's what they wanted. One of the things that an Alinsky tactic would be something like this. You don't overexert force. You use the best possible means that you have to win in each situation. So, going forward, it doesn't behoove Antifa to start shooting people right now. Of course not. It would be bad for their long-term goals. They want to perpetually play the victim. And they have just the right amount of constantly using violence, but being backed by the establishment. So they could perpetually attack you, hit you, shout the most vile things at you, do whatever they want to you, but they still claim victimhood because the establishment runs that narrative for them. If the establishment is no longer there to back them up, and they start swinging bike locks and they get tackled by the police and arrested, then they'll up the ante. That's what's going to happen. And there will be a period of time where things get really bad with these groups. If police ever start cracking down. But until then, they get to operate with impunity in many areas of the country. College campuses being one of them. Now, am I saying these people in this mob are Antifa? No, but it's the same ideology. These are people that truly believe that you're Hitler, you're a Nazi. If you don't agree with them, they're justified in punching Nazis. They're justified in stopping you by any means necessary. And that makes them virtuous. See, I deep down believe that if you have someone like a spouse beater, like a wife beater or something, they probably know what they're doing's bad. But imagine a wife beater that's like, this is great. I'm a great person for doing this. This is not only morally acceptable, it's morally preferred. I have a duty to beat my wife. That's what these people are. It's not just they feel bad after they attack you, but it was worth it to get the win. They feel great about it. They think you deserve it. They think you should be in re-education camps. They think you should be beaten and bloody. They think you shouldn't be allowed to show your face in public. You should either agree with them or grovel in your little holes in rural America and keep your mouth shut. And if you do speak up and pop your head up, then you get whacked. And that's the way it should be. They truly believe that. I'll show you conversations I was having today here in a bit. That's what they believe. What did this girl do? What makes her Hitler? You know what? The only thing I could get? Her defense of the MAGA agenda. That's what I was told. That's what makes her Hitler. Now, granted, this is some online anonymous person, but you can go through Twitter and see Tim Pool did a tweet about it today. He said, I'm disgusted. If you ever want to see cult behavior, look at Caitlin Bennett's Twitter feed and the abuse she suffered and how people are cheering for it. That's Tim Pool, left-wing person. He knows, though. He knows what this sort of thing's about. He saw it in Occupy Wall Street. Left-winger, he saw what Antifa and these college mobs are about. He's been decrying it for years. No one wants to listen. They are dangerous. What they're doing on our campus is an abomination. Indoctrinating kids, propagandizing them from elementary school and on. To hate this country, to hate anyone that disagrees with them, to encourage to be perpetual victimhood status, to engage in identity politics and cultural Marxism, and to use violence to anyone that disagrees with them. That's all being taught at our universities. And it's getting worse. Maybe you went to school 20, 30 years ago and you're like, I kind of remember left-wing things. It's worse. Check out Heterodox Academy, ran by this guy, Jonathan Haidt. He's a left-wing person, and he points out how administration and faculty, it's exponential how far radically left they've become. So it started out, you had like 80% liberal, 80% liberal, 80% liberal, 81, 82, 89, 93, 97, 98. And not just liberal, but identifying as communist, as extreme left-wing. All the time we see when people are actually exposed in Antifa, you see college professors among them all the time. Heck, we've even seen high school teachers and elementary school teachers, primary school teachers, I guess. So it's appalling. But the real danger is that the establishment backs them. They are the brown shirts. That's what it is. Youth mobs that will beat you for disagreeing and feel totally morally justified for doing so, sanctioned by the establishment. That's what it is. They're not saying go beat those people. And this is something people misconstrue about Obama. I don't believe that Obama told Lois Lerner at the IRS, hey, go after Republican groups. He didn't have to say it. He instilled, along with many years before him, a culture that said, we are morally virtuous, we will win by any means necessary, we could go after anyone we want for any reason if they're a danger to stopping our agenda. So he didn't have to say, go after this specific person. He set the culture that said, it's okay to do what you want to take down the people against us, and then they just did it. And then when they're caught, they have plausible deniability. No one ever told me. Obama just read about it in the newspaper. It's the same thing here. These teachers don't have to say, I want you to form a mob and go stop Caitlin Bennett. But what they can do is leave their students or encourage their students how horrible Caitlin Bennett is, and she's coming to campus today. Or Ben Shapiro, or Ann Coulter, or Milo Yiannopoulos, etc. But the establishment, the administrators that control the police, the mayors that control the police that allow this to go, that's the danger. So I really want you to understand that point. It's not just a mob. It's bad. Mobs are bad, don't get me wrong. That's bad enough. But it's more than that. That's the real power that they have. That's the power of controlling the narrative. When I talk, you heard me in my preview, when I talk constantly, it's not about we get fist and we fight them with fist. That's not going to work. I don't care who's armed more. It's not going to work. We need to convince the unwoken masses, the millions upon millions of people. There's far more of them than us or the corrupt people. It's just people trying to live their daily lives. Maybe they lean left, they lean right. They're independent. They don't care about politics or culture whatsoever. They're just trying to feed their family. We need to convince them of what this corruption is. That's what the battle is. We need to start taking back the culture war. We need to stop ceding this ground that our education system can be dominated by these radical establishment leftists. And that gets me to my second and my most important point. Do whatever you can to get this message viral. Hashtag it, whatever means you can to get out to talk to people. It is time to defund the universities. Period. We see one instance of any political intimidation or censorship on any campus, instantly you no longer get any federal funds. If you're a student and you're caught harassing or trying to censor people for political ideology, you no longer have access to student aid or student loans. Period. We have the right as Americans to not fund the insurrection of our country. We have that right. We shouldn't have to pay for the people that want to overthrow this country and throw us in education camps and attack us with physical violence. We shouldn't have to pay to help them do so. No more funding the universities. Have 1 million people tweeting about it or talking about it or marching about it so Trump can see. Can he do it himself? Probably not. But at least get it out there. What are they teaching anyways? Look at it let me talk to my friends on the left for a minute. Maybe you're someone who wants to vote for Bernie Sanders and you have a spot in your heart for these young people that go to campuses and then they don't have enough money to pay their student loans and they're basically in indentured servitude. Okay, I feel you, that's a reasonable concern. But what are our students getting at these products, at these universities? What are they getting for their money? Indoctrination. Most of the time, no real-world skills that will either benefit society as a large or help them get some sort of meaningful job. And so they come out in perpetual debt. Now, meanwhile, since the 70s, when student loans became guaranteed by the federal government, the price of tuition has gone up exponentially faster than inflation. Why is that? Well, because once these campuses learn, wait a minute, so you're giving kids free money? Yeah, we're just going to jack up the prices. The amount of administrators at these universities has tripled, quadrupled in some cases. Do you really think it's harder to run a university today than it was 40 years ago? Why do we need 4 times the administrators? Because they're not doing anything. They're just enriching themselves. Bernie's plan for free college for all, it's just like Obamacare, right? With Obamacare, they said, ooh, these dastardly insurance companies. Remember Michael Moore had that movie Sicko? Ooh, the corrupt insurance companies. Ooh, they're so corrupt. I know what we'll do. We'll come up with a plan that says, now, legally, you have to purchase the insurance company's product. That'll show them. It's the same with these universities. They're the villains. They're the ones that are robbing students and not giving them anything remotely acceptable for the exorbitant fees they're charging. And so what's the solution? Well, Bernie Sanders will funnel more of your money to them. Guaranteed money. You think they're going to lower their cost once the federal government's paying for every student? You think they're going to become less indoctrinated? Of course not. Now a 4-year degree will be the same as a high school degree. So if you want to separate yourself, now you got to go to more college. The colleges are A-okay with that. Sure. Well, Bernie's not paying for this, so you have to take out a loan. Well, either way, we're rolling in the dough. Keep her coming, baby. By the way, yeah, Marxism. By the way, beat Trump supporters. Yeah, that's all good. We're not actually going to teach you something. In fact, we'll say all the traditional programs that were taught in university for centuries are all bigoted. They're all racist. Mathematics, philosophy, history, that's all racism. Biology, please, racism. Patriarchy. And they want us to pay for this crap. So if you're on the left, you ought to be saying, it's a damn shame what these universities did. They're greedy, they're disgusting, they're willing to bankrupt kids for a lifetime and give them almost nothing in return. So why is our federal government funding that? Now, yes, I have friends on the left that's like, but you can't get rid of every university. We need doctors. We need engineers. Fine. Then we go case by case. Remember when Obama did the Title IX garbage? Title IX was originally designed to be something like this. You can't have 50 men's athletic programs, but only one women's program. There has to be an equal amount. Now, on face, this is stupid, because it assumes that men and women in each area and in each school want to equally participate in athletics. And that might not be true. For example, I think men generally are more interested in athletics, but it's conceivable you could have a university where you just had way more women interested in athletics than men. When we start to say, oh, we don't want equality, we want equity. Equality is equality of opportunity. Equity is equality of outcome. So it's a huge difference, right? Equality means we should all get a fair chance. I agree with that. Equity means that the end results have to be even across these imaginary lines, like race or gender. So 50 men are in sports, 50 women have to be, even if you can only find 20, and you have to go out and beg 30 women to participate. Doesn't matter. That's what they call equality. Instead, what it should be is you give the opportunity for those women to participate, and if they choose not to, that's great. That's what's great about our country. You're not forced to do something you don't want. But you should have the opportunity. Anyways, Obama came in with Title IX and all these fake rape statistics. 1 in 5 women are being raped on college campuses. Totally false, debunked narrative. Again, designed to feed into this patriarchy, identity politics garbage. But they started to say, oh, you got it. You're not going to get funding from the federal government if cases come up where there's accusations of rape and you don't handle it to our specifications. So that directly led to anytime that anyone said that person assaulted me, administrations were just like, okay, get that person out of campus. Due process be damned. Guilty until proven innocent. And we're right back to the whole Kavanaugh situation that you've heard me rant about 1,000 times. But no one had a problem. Well, I had a problem. People did have a problem. But that was because the reason that Obama was threatening to withhold funding was outrageous. Here's a situation where our tax dollars are going for the indoctrination, the forming of mobs to attack people that agree with us, the forming of people that say we should be in re-education camps and gulags, the forming of people that say we have no right on public, taxpayer-paid property, because that's what Ohio University is. It's a public university. If they want to be a private business and say we don't want Trump supporters here, so be it. But you don't get federal money then. They want that money, don't they? This is the establishment Democrats. I posted this on my video. Hey, MAGA wearer, MAGA hat wearer, conservative, we hate you. You're disgusting. You're the next Hitler. If you come on our campus, this public property that we've declared our campus, we will physically beat you until you leave. You have no right to be here. Also, you have to keep paying taxes to fund us. And if you're someone who doesn't think that all college students and all your tax money should go to fund these sorts of campuses, then you're a bigot and you're a terrible person because education's so important. But you're not allowed here. You're not allowed here. Your ideas aren't allowed here. But education's very important. That's what we're dealing with. So I don't think that there should be a total ban on funding for all universities immediately. I think it should be a case-by-case basis. Those that have already heinously violated common law, encouraged mob behavior, encouraged censorship for political reasons. I'm talking Missouri, I'm talking Evergreen, I'm talking Berkeley, I'm talking Ohio. Each of them immediately now, start with them, cut their funding. No funding. 3 years, no funding. Any student that was caught doesn't get federal aid, doesn't get student loan access. I'll bet things shape up real quick because that almighty dollar is all these administrations care about. They'll pretend because they think that it personally benefits them to be these great leftists, but it's just like the Democratic Party with Bloomberg. They all pretend that they're outraged about money in politics, but as soon as a big fancy billionaire comes on their side, they can't wait to suck up that money and use it. Same with these administrators on campus. Exact same thing. Sorry I'm on a roll. I missed most of the chat there. But defund the campuses. Defund it. Why is it conservatives, are we always using our taxpayer money to fund things that we're directly opposed to? You never see it the opposite way, right? You never see Democrats force. Can you imagine, like, let's say we all band together and start a conservative public university. And we start banning any left-wingers from being there. But we demand that left-wing taxes still go to fund us. Can you imagine how quick that would end? There's not a chance that would be allowed. Your public money going to your tax money going to a public university that you should be allowed on. You don't even have to be a student. It's public property. Financed by you. They say you're not welcome there. But if you own a private business and you're a baker and you don't want to bake a cake because you don't believe in LGBT weddings, which, by the way, I support LGBT marriage, but nonetheless, I even more support the right for people to say, this is my business, I don't want to participate in that. So it's a private business. You have to serve even people you're ideologically opposed to. That's the left position. But as a public university, you don't have to even allow someone that's ideologically on the right to attend. Does that make any sense? Is there any justification for this? Okay, so I'm on this website above Top Secret. You should check it out if you like it. We talk a lot of politics there. That's me, Grambler. Now, I want to just go through some of the comments I had with people, okay? I don't think anyone has their real name here, but I'll try to hide their screen names some. So you see this video of this girl being mobbed. Here's first comment. Have seen some videos of her. She is a radical who only seeks attention. She tries to expose her interview partners. She's rarely interested in dialogue. I would also protest against her. So, who cares if you despise her? Who cares if you think she's a poor journalist or she's an ideologue? How is that anyway? Your first response to seeing someone attacked and mobbed like that is like, well, I would protest too. I don't like her. I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like Jim Acosta. I don't like Barack Obama. If they were treated in this manner, I guarantee you I would be like, that is ridiculous. The conservatives that did that ought to be ashamed of themselves. I guarantee I'd say. In fact, not only do I guarantee it, watch this debate I did on my channel with this guy falling down. It's not very good because he screams at me the whole time and I was having audio issues and he just hurls insults and names at me the whole time. Not very good. But the reason that he wanted to have a debate with me was because they were flying in Alabama. They were flying this giant baby Trump balloon. And some guy went up and knifed it. And I said, you can't do that. That person has free speech. As long as they're not in private property, as long as it's permitted for them to fly this balloon, you don't get to go up and destroy their personal property because you find it offensive. You don't get to do that. Just like in this situation, I don't care if you find this girl offensive. You don't get to mob her. You don't get to shut her up. So I'm an equal opportunity on this. But imagine that's your first reaction to seeing this. It gets worse, don't worry. Here's someone, this is a criticism that I love, that I've been getting lately. You really need to calm down because you are acting just like those you are abusing, making you no better than them. You see, this is something I hear a lot, that I need to calm down, whether it be talking about corruption in the FBI, whether it be talking about grooming gangs in the UK. Oh, you're too excitable, Rob. Look, it's a stylistic thing. I'm authentic. This is how I feel. If something infuriates me, then I'm not going to pretend, I'm really upset about that. That's not who I am. Maybe it's not the best way to communicate. But I think that different people prefer different styles, and if you don't like me getting upset, that's totally fine. But this goes a step further. So me, in my video on this, and passionately saying, this is ridiculous, we need to defund these universities, yelling about it like I was earlier, somehow that makes me the same as the mob surrounding this girl. The exact same. And this is something you see occur oftentimes with these people that defend this sort of thing. They'll say, oh, why are you whining? Why are you complaining about what they're doing? Oh, you're upset and they're upset, therefore you're the same. So in other words, we should be allowed to beat you with impunity. We should be allowed to have any sort of injustice, whether it be injustice in the legal system that we see with the intel agents and things like that, whether it be these violent mobs on college campuses, any of this stuff. They should be allowed to encroach those injustices on you. But as soon as you speak up, not threaten violence. I didn't threaten violence here or in my video. You're all witness to it. I didn't threaten violence. I just said, this is enough. We need to stop this. As soon as I say that, people are like, oh, you're the problem. You're the one with the problem. You spoke up about it? What's your problem? Why are you whining about it, man? Geez, you're no better than them. This is the level of discourse that we're at. And again, if it's this bad when someone like me, again, is doing everything I can to stop violence and say we need to fight this through strategic methods and nonviolent ways. If I get attacked as being the real problem for just suggesting that, imagine if someone punches you in the face at one of these things and you punch them back. You can't even talk to them. If you get punched, you have to say, I'm so sorry, please hit me again. If you speak up against it, these people say, well, you're the problem. You shouldn't have been there. You shouldn't have spoke up against it. So imagine what it would be if you actually defend yourself justly with physical violence. We'll just skip to some of the good ones. I'm not going to spend all day here. I think people ranting, railing, and carrying on, and it doesn't translate very well. I think it's stupid. There's a video of a ranting crazy male ranting crazy at people, ranting crazy at others. Stupid, you can't see that, I think. He called me a schoolgirl as well, which was really cool. It's just stupid. This person says, was there any violence? I didn't see any violence. He said, I didn't see an attack. I said, is throwing things at people an attack? Is surrounding them and screaming in their face and pushing her an attack? Is hitting the vehicle she's driving away in an attack? They say, I didn't see any of that. I saw a bodyguard pick her up and carry her while people let them through. Probably just choice clips. Throwing liquids at a car would not really be an attack. Maybe you could post clips. I showed the same clip to him that you saw. He says, I didn't really see any pushing. Someone threw a roll of toilet paper and someone threw a soda. Sorry, but I don't see that as a real attack. Now, the only thing I'll say about this is constantly what you see from this crowd. Now, this person who's someone, this mentality, people like this, they saw what happened with Covington. They said that was deplorable. They couldn't believe what those students did to Covington. They say that type of stuff all the time, right? But when it happens to a conservative, they'll go out of their way to say, well, I didn't think it was that bad. What if it was your daughter? Would you think it was bad then? Oh, it wasn't an attack. Please. I never wish any violence. I say to people all the time, I think you have a terrible mentality. I think your position here is disgusting. You're excusing violence. But if this violence was ever directed at you, I would defend you still. Even though karma would dictate that you have it coming, I would still defend you. How would someone like that, no, this wasn't that bad. That's not that bad. How would they feel if they got this treatment, let's do 6-7 days in a row. You think they'd start to change their mind? You think they'd start to say, oh, okay, it's a little worse than I thought. I don't like having mobs of people stop my egress from everywhere, push me while yell at me that I'm pushing them, scream in my face, spit on me, pour coffee on me, throw sodas at me, smash my truck when I'm trying to leave. I don't like that. But when it's a conservative person, they'll go out of their way to be like, she should have been there. Wasn't that bad? This person says, I'm tired of all the alt-right troll losers who think that everyone should be forced to listen to their crap. This goes both ways. Those at Trump rallies are there to provoke people deserve an ass whooping. Freedom of speech does not give you the right to harass people and provoke them. Who was forced to listen to her? This would be like if I go to my public park in town here with the dog, public property, and there's someone sitting there reading a book, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm not going to be forced to watch you read this book. You need to get the hell out of here, or you're getting an ass whooping. Does that make any sense? It's public property. If you don't like what she's saying, you walk away. But these people truly feel. They feel free speech means they don't have to listen to you, which means you're not allowed to speak. Not that they could leave. I heard people constantly on campuses that I didn't like. You know what I did? Walked away. I didn't surround them with the mob and throw things at them. People are just fed up with alt-right trolls who think everyone should be forced to listen to them. Again, if I went to a bar full of Trump folks and started insulting their beliefs, I'd get knocked the F out. If you come to provoke me, be sure I will try to shut you up. You'd do the same. No, I wouldn't. And if someone goes into a bar full of Trump supporters and they get beat up for saying, I don't like Trump, I would say, guess what? The Trump supporters are in the wrong. Just like I said when that Trump supporter cut that balloon, he was in the wrong. You don't get to enact physical violence or destroy property because you don't like what someone's saying. Now, the problem with this argument is a bar would be private property or a public business. A bar owner would have a right to get you out if they feel you're harassing customers. If they didn't and the customers took it upon themselves, they would be in the wrong. But public property is completely different than that. You don't have the right to tell someone, I don't like your political message, therefore you're not welcome on public property. You don't have the right to say that. Looks to me like she went there to elicit a response. She had security with her. By the way, this is 4 or 5 people, not just one person. She had security with her, a behemoth, and surprised she got the response she wanted. She had no reason to be on that campus other than to express her right to do so. She simply wanted a response and set things in motion to get it. Not sure what is the big deal, really. My only hope is she rethinks this behavior before she and others get hurt. Look, that might be true. Maybe this is exactly what she wanted. That doesn't excuse their behavior. This is like when Trump wanted to move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem, and everyone said, well, you can't do that, or the Palestinians will start murdering people. Well, then it's the Palestinians that are the bad people in that scenario, isn't it? You don't say, oh, yeah, it would be our fault if we do something innocuous and it forces someone to murder us. That's our fault. That's absurd. But if that's the case, I wonder what this poster would say about, I don't know, the sit-ins and the civil rights movement. Oh, those black people that went to the white-only businesses and calmly sat there and tried to order coffee, they're the agitators. They deserve what they get. They just went there to provoke a reaction. Unreal. Here's one for you. I hope you guys can see this. I'm just going to leave this here. The Paradox of Tolerance by philosopher Karl Popper. Here's a picture of guys yelling at a Nazi. Should a tolerant society tolerate intolerance? The answer is no. It's a paradox, but unlimited tolerance could lead to the extinction of tolerance. When we extend tolerance to those who are openly intolerant, here's Hitler, the tolerant ones end up being destroyed, and tolerance with them. Any movement that preaches intolerance and persecution must be outside of the law. As paradoxical as it may seem, defending tolerance requires to not tolerate the intolerant. Their definition is anyone who's intolerant deserves to be outside the bounds of law, but we have the right to be intolerant to you. They call it a paradox for a reason because it doesn't make sense. It's impossible. Everything would be illegal then. If I say, oh, you're intolerant, therefore that's illegal, people say, but you're intolerant of my intolerance, therefore that's illegal. That's why it's a paradox. Now, what does this girl have to do with Hitler? Anything? Did anybody see? I asked people, I said, was she spouting pro-Hitler stuff? Can you show me? Can you show me where she was talking about Nazism or Hitler? Can someone show me that? And of course, my request went unanswered. They couldn't even tell you what this girl's about. They had no clue. All they knew is there was a viral story that she pooped herself at a party. I said poop again. That's 4 times if you count explaining it. A record for my stream. That's all they know about her. I said, and this is worth saying, I said, we all said it when the is it okay to punch a Nazi crap was going around. By the way, this was the Telegraph in the UK. This was mainstream people saying, yes, it's okay to punch a Nazi. I say, no, it's not okay unless they're committing violence directed towards you. Because once you say yes, then everyone you disagree with is a Nazi and you are justified to use violence against them. I've seen CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC, Democrat politicians, people in Hollywood, and posters on this site and Twitter say that if you're wearing a MAGA hat, that it's a racist symbol like the Klan hood and shouldn't be tolerated. Therefore, this cutesy little cartoon is now applied to all of them to justify their use of violence against 40-something million Americans that support Donald Trump. Isn't it convenient? All of the opposite political party of me is intolerant and therefore I'm justified to use violence against all of them. Heck, listen to members of Bernie's team discuss how Trump supporters will need to be placed in re-education camp. The people defending this violence disgust me. May karma never give them the sort of violence from mobs they cheer on for us. And here we go. This is the crux. This is the last one I'll read. You ready? Now, after this was 10 pages of argumentation going on, finally we get to the post where they come clean. They tell you exactly why this girl got what she deserved. You ready? Here we go. Her radical right-wing conservative viewpoints and support of MAGA culture reflect that of the early Nazi movement. It's pretty simple. Radical conservatism turned nationalism is something that must be stopped at all costs. We've seen what it leads to. We've learned our lesson from history. That's not just one person. That's not just anonymous online people. Remember when I did the video about the Black Hebrew Israelites in the New York Times right after Covington writing a puff piece for them? What was I vividly remember the last paragraph of that New York Times article. Right after the Covington situation about the Black Hebrew Israelites. The racist that were attacking these children. They're doing a puff piece. They say, well, they say some bad things, but they're not violent. Except that one of their founders beheaded someone, had 14 deaths on his record, used to tell his followers if they brought him the ears of white people, he would reward them. Then there was another that killed his ex-girlfriend and baby. Then we had the Black Hebrew Israelite after that killed 3 people at the Jewish deli. But they're not violent. Beheading people, wanting the ears of white people, that doesn't qualify as violence to the New York Times. By the way, I know that they knew this. You know how? Because I knew it. And if I have access to find this information, then surely the largest newspaper in the world also has access to find it. They chose not to. That's what they did. But the last paragraph quoted a black professor of black studies. And you know what he said? He said, and this is verbatim, or almost verbatim. He said, no doubt that some people might be intimidated by the language of the Black Hebrew Israelites. But just know, to us in the black community, what they say is less frightening than people in MAGA hats. That's the last sentence of that article about a racist group that just attacked children. MAGA hats are worse. That's the New York Times. Now, I know I'm not the only one. You've seen it time after time. MAGA hat's a symbol of racism. It's like wearing a Klan hood. Over and over. Trump's a Nazi. The people that support him are Nazis. They're 10-toothed racist rubes trying to stop the brown hordes from coming in. Over and over. You've heard that, right? I have. From mainstream people, from people on Twitter, from people that I've seen in real life. I've seen this said over and over. This isn't just 1 or 2 fringe people. This is a common belief. I'm not saying everyone on the left believes it, but it is common, especially in the establishment. We're allowed to punch you. We have to stop you by any means necessary. You're a Nazi. History teaches us that we have to do anything. We have to stop you at all costs because you support the opposition to our party. We have to at all costs. And they call you a Nazi. They don't understand. They don't even have the cognitive dissonance to step back and be like, holy cow. You're literally talking of the extermination of 40 million plus people. Not extermination at first. We could have the option to willfully be silent and bow to them, but if we don't, then at any cost, we must be ended. That sounds Hitler-esque to me. That sounds Stalin-esque and Mao-esque. But they assure us, oh no, there's not a string of violence. No. It's Trump's rhetoric. And believe me, if one of these people shoot a MAGA hat wearer, it'd somehow be Trump's fault. That's how they'd spin it. Now, how do you have a civil I wasn't saying anything crazy. You saw the stuff I wasn't saying anything crazy to them. They literally look at me and they say, you shouldn't be impassioned. It's not a big deal. You're as bad as them for speaking up. And by the way, we want to eliminate everyone who thinks like you and stop you at all costs. So right now it might be throwing drinks. Next it might be fists. Then it might be ball bats or knives. And then we'll just kill you. Because you have to be stopped at all costs. Because you supported the opposite political president as me. The opposite political party. So you need to die. You need to be eliminated. Whether that means you're eliminated by changing your mind and joining us, or you're eliminated by not saying what's on your mind and shutting up and self-censoring, or you're eliminated because we throw you in re-education camps or prisons, or that we have to kill you. You will be silent, one way or the other. That's what these people think. Now, what are we supposed to say to them? We're funding, your tax dollars are going to people that believe that. And they believe they're not fake, right? You see your Elizabeth Warrens, your Gillibrands, your Hillary Clintons, your Nancy Pelosi, they're fake. They pretend that they believe a bunch of crap. They don't care at all. They care about power. They care about enriching themselves. These people, with the utmost sincerity, believe what they're talking about. They absolutely do. Absolutely. They are totally morally justified. They're morally righteous. The more violence they use against you, the more they censor you, the better they feel about themselves. That's powerful zealotry, particularly when it's backed by the establishment. It's surreal. Defund the universities. They're killing this country. They're putting kids in debt for no reason. They're taking billions of your tax dollars for no reason that could be gone to real things. And they're indoctrinating people to hate this country and want to use violence to silence people that disagree with them. Did you see the clip? My buddy Drone Tech did a video. The black girl stands up and says, "Excuse me, there's too many white people in this area." That's racism. And I was in debate. Debate was the left of the left. I met some good people there. Don't get me wrong. Not everyone was terrible. But I was one of the only right-wingers, I assure you. And as someone, you know me, you've seen me on here, I don't consider myself extreme right. I was a lunatic to them. If you were a moderate, you were considered extremely right-wing. So if you were one of the 2-3 people that identified as right-wing, you were off the rails. It was nothing. You'd walk into debate rounds. Why haven't you acknowledged your white privilege? All white people are a problem. White people should all die. Men should all die. You should forfeit this round to encourage black participation. You should forfeit this round to encourage woman participation. On and on and on and on. I am bad for the way I was born. That's bigotry. That's racism. And it was not only accepted, it was accepted so much that you literally couldn't argue against that. You can't. Now, you know me. I've said this over and over. I'm not someone who plays the white identitarian game. I despise identity politics. What my race is one of the least interesting things about me. I just don't care. I care about my ancestors. I care about the forefathers. I care about people that think like me, that understand what makes this country great. But I don't care about the skin color. But if someone said black is good, whiteness is evil, and you wanted to say, I disagree with that, I think whiteness can be good, you wouldn't just lose. You would literally be shamed. They would scream at you. How dare you be insensitive to the people defending blackness? How dare you? How dare you say anything that could criticize blackness? How dare you say anything that could defend whiteness? I'm not joking. It was literally an argument that you could not make. It was considered outside the realm of polite discussion. You could say someone should be dead because they're white or a man, no problem. But if you reciprocated and inserted a different race or gender, you would literally get booted out. You would. So what you had to say is, I'm not white. That's how you debated these rounds. You had to say, well, what is whiteness? Define whiteness. And they'd say, well, it's not just your color, it's a choice. And then you had to say, okay, define it. And then they wouldn't define it. They would just say, you're it somehow. And then you would have to argue against this nebulous, non-defined concept. No, I'm not what you're saying. Because they just define whiteness as evil. And then you have to say, well, I'm not evil. And they say, yeah, but you're white. And you say, yeah, but I thought it wasn't a skin color. Well, that's the game. That's what controlling words allows you to do. I saw this crap 10 years before it was on television. This is what I was dealing with 2004, 2005. When you first hear this as some rural schlub like me, I thought it's like, oh man, we're going to talk about what would conflict with China look like. Should we stop corn subsidies? Should we increase funding for fossil fuels? Should we increase funding to countries in the Middle East to fight terrorism? Right? That's what I thought we were talking about. Economic policies, international policy. Nope. Sometimes you would, but sometimes you just, I have to defend my whiteness? What the hell does that even mean? What does my personal life have to do, or how I look, have to do with this hypothetical exchange of ideas? Debate's a game. You're supposed to go in and anything goes. I get that. That was one of the things that appealed to me about it. Anything goes. You could talk about any subject, and then you're not a bigot because you said maybe we should go to war with China. No one thought you were actually saying go to war with China. You're just hypothetically talking about it in a game. Just like when you're playing chess, you're not really saying, I want my pawn to kill the queen. It's a game. You're exchanging ideas. But all of a sudden it became personal all the time. You and how you were born is wrong. You and how you act is wrong. And you just have to shut up and take it. Now, I knew good people in the debate community. They didn't dare speak up against this. Oh my God, can you believe it? No way. We're not going to jeopardize our good standing in this community. Are you kidding? You would actually have, over and over, I had this happen. People that went to great schools like University of Louisville. I'm going to basically the poorest school that has a debate team. I'm working at Burger King to try to pay my way through. I have a sister that's 20 years younger than me. She's having medical problems. I'm worried about stuff like that. I drive like the cheapest Cavalier you could find. Cost me $500. It wouldn't run in the rain. Half the time the brakes didn't work. But I was privileged, says the person that's got a full ride to Louisville and has a Jaguar. I'm the privileged one. Just because of my skin color. Non-stop. This is the garbage they're teaching at these units. And debate's supposed to be the best of the best, the most intelligent. They're so smart, they're dumb. I've done this before, but I'll read you. This is what a debate sounds like. Let me find an article. You would read evidence. You read like an auctioneer. Now you're sending your kid. Oh, you're in debate. My God, you debate Harvard. How prestigious. That's amazing. It must be a very intelligent enterprise. What's it like? Well, here you go, Mom. Let me show you. Just after the U.S. foreign policy, G. Burrell, Judge Arp, debate appetite to power on the independent courts of the international crisis, the impact of Europe, the EU agreed to deploy warships in order to the United Nations to bargain a war to our country. The EU would have now an extension of prior to the refugees in the Mediterranean. Judge Barr, the EU chief diplomat, 27 foreign minister to launch today a naval ships of planes satellites and forts with UN embargo on Libya. The counter objection to the operation morph into a rescue mission. Burrell promises ships would be returned if they pull the full factor. Encourage people to attempt the rescue from Libya to Europe. That's what you'd see if you walk into a college debate right now. Policy debate. That's what you would see. Wait a minute. I thought this was supposed to be people that were training to get in the public sphere, to be politicians, to be lawyers. How the hell can you represent the public when the public can't understand you? Yeah, breathing's a big thing with debate when you're talking that fast. That's just to show you how insane that activity was. So, of course, people that believe that's how you talk in order to persuade someone to win a debate, of course then they don't have a problem believing, oh, you were born evil. Yeah, Kenar, and here's the problem, right? I complain about Republicans all the time and their ineffectualness. What are the Republicans doing to win the culture war? I talk to Republicans operating at the state level. What can I do to help? I want to reach out. I think my strength is reaching out to people that aren't traditional Republicans. And there's two groups of people. One, it could be demographics that traditionally don't vote Republican. So like inner city black people, single women, young people. I think I could reach those groups. Not by changing the message. I argue the message, the conservative message, is good for everyone. The ideas of personal responsibility and personal freedom. We judge you by the content of your character, not the color of your skin or your gender or all that crap. That message, I think people are thirsty for. You saw the rise of Jordan Peterson. What was that about? He started to tell particularly young men, but young people, about personal responsibility. And they ate it up. I ate it up. No one talks about it. It's always, you're a victim. The world owes you something. You sit around miserable thinking the world's out to get you. When you actually hear someone tell you, you can achieve. Look yourself in the mirror. That's who's responsible. Here's what to do to make yourself a better person. I'm not just going to yell at you and say, you messed up. I'm going to say, you messed up, but you can fix it. And here's how. People are thirsty for that message. I think I can reach out to those communities. But the other community is people that just don't vote. And there are millions of them. They think that politics doesn't affect them. They think that this stuff doesn't affect them, but it does. And I can reach those people. And I'm willing to bet that at least in my area of the world, but I would say over this country, more people that don't take an interest in politics would lean towards the conservative side because the left side is gone so insane. Like we see on this college campus. The average person don't want to deal with that crap. So that's what I think my special would be, reaching out to these groups. You know what I'm told when I ask, like, what's your message for young people? Like, what can I do to help? Can you put yard signs up? What are you doing as a Republican Party for, like, social media? What are you doing, like, to use newer media platforms to reach out to people? Well, Trump gets it. He knows what he's doing. He gets the power of memes. He gets the power of YouTube, of Twitter. Who else does in the Republican Party? There are some good ones, but as a whole, they have let the culture war slide. Go read Andrew Breitbart. Watch some Andrew Breitbart videos. He talked about it all the time. Politics is downstream of culture. In other words, we lost the culture war. Say what you will about the ineptitude of the political class of the Democrats right now and the establishment. But damn, they were smart and devious in what they did. They control Hollywood. They control Silicon Valley. They control the education system. They control the media. How many times have you heard me say that in this channel? You're probably tired of hearing me say it. But why are those four institutions so important? Because it's not that they affect politics, it's that they affect culture. They completely dominate the public narrative. Now, I know I talk to conservatives, they're like, Hollywood? Who cares? It matters. With everyone, but particularly with young people. And guess what? Young people become older. When everyone in Hollywood sets the ground rules for what's going on, I mean, think back. Maybe you're older. Think back to, like, I remember before I knew his name, I remember being like 8 years old and seeing like a picture of James Dean, like with the leather jacket, smoking a cigarette. And as an 8-year-old, I'm like, damn, that guy's cool. You're right? Like, you knew if you were young and you saw that, that was impressionable. He's smoking, I'm smoking. He's wearing that jacket, I'm wearing that jacket. He's talking about how there's no difference between men and women. He's talking about open borders. He's talking about socialism. He's talking about hating people based on the color of their skin. And it's not just him. It's everyone in Hollywood. Now, if it was just that, maybe it wouldn't be as effective. But it's also in academia. You're going to school every day as a young person. You're hearing this crap. It used to be comical how one-sided and pro-American things were. Like, if you go back and read textbooks from the 50s, it's laughable. Like, America never did anything wrong. That's clearly not true. Now it's the exact opposite. Ask your kids when America did something right. Not all schools are that bad, but in general. Victimhood, America's bad, blah, 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 blah. Some schools, it's considered offensive to fly the American flag. You don't want to be offensive to people that maybe weren't originally from here. It's offensive to discuss traditional conservative beliefs. It's offensive to have the idea that men and women are different. It's offensive to have the idea that traditional family values are important and are the best way to raise children. Does that mean women shouldn't have an opportunity to go out and do what they want? Absolutely not. In the eyes of the law, it should be as equal as possible. Women should have every opportunity to do what men do. But the fact that we have to ignore the obvious truth that the best way to have a family was to have someone who was staying home with the kids and someone that was out earning, we have to ignore that. All of that's ingrained to us when we're young now. Oh, you can't say that, you can't say it. And it started slowly and it ratcheted up. So it's all through school. You see what it's like on campuses. It's even more ratcheted up. The media I don't even have to talk to you about. Of course you know what that's about. What about Silicon Valley? Again, it's not nefarious like they're sitting in a smoky room saying, let's screw over conservatives. Let's screw over even left-wing people that don't agree with the establishment narrative. That's not what they're doing. All the people that work in Silicon Valley are people that are young, that are coming out of these schools. They've already been indoctrinated. So you just let them go. And based on their own personal beliefs and actions, they'll screw over conservative people. Jack Dorsey doesn't have to. I truly believe Jack Dorsey probably has no clue what's going on with this company. He's like, what? Like when you saw him in that Joe Rogan interview, all these cases about people getting censored, he's just like, I don't know anything about that. I think we do it even-handed. He might think that. But he doesn't understand all the people he put in positions of power to censor people don't agree with him. And they, just like that person I read you, says, these Trump people need to be stopped by any means necessary, at all costs. If they're willing to punch you in the face, don't you think they're willing to censor you off social media? Yeah, preacher, a man got 16 years for burning an LGBT flag. Again, it's something that maybe my supporters, people that follow me, don't want to hear. I supported LGBT marriage. I think the agenda gets crazy once you start talking about other things like transgender or talking about sexuality to children. That stuff's offensive to me in the highest regard. But if two consenting adults want to get married, I don't care if they're the same gender. I don't. I think they should be allowed. I think I could even make a biblical case for it. Although it may be a sin to some people and in the eyes of people that are religious, I think that all sorts of sexual things are a sin, like premarital sex or untraditional intercourse. To me, being in a loving monogamous relationship, even if it's one you disapprove of, is better than the alternative of not allowing them to have sanctioned monogamy. But that's a debate for another day. Anyways, but the idea that somehow burning that flag's worth 16 years, I mean, it's a joke. We all know it. And you get sick and tired of it. But how do we fight back? Through the information battle. And it's not just, oh, I'm really good at talking about politics. I'm going to grow up and be like Rob, who could just run his mouth for hours at a time. You don't have to be like that. Maybe you're an artist. That has value. There is this cultural zeitgeist out there, right? Everything that we do in the culture that other people like or see, all of it has an influence, this subconscious influence over us, right? If you're good at painting or making music or something, your ideology and part of who you are goes into that. And that gets out there and people listen to it. And that encourages other people to share their interests. That's what we need. Maybe you're a comedian. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you're a musician. Maybe you're a chef. Maybe you're just someone who doesn't do any of that stuff. You're just a home taker. All of that. I say it all the time. It's not our words. We show by being honest about what we believe and by acting, by our actions. We're not miserable people. We're not going to flip out on someone and wish violence on them, right? We could passionately disagree, but we're not going to resort to stupid things violence and doxing and trying to get people fired. We're not going to do that. That will eventually get into the public ether. And then you start to see that it's working. And me, as a huge fan of comedy and video games, I'm pleased to say that two of the first areas that people were waking up in culture were gamers and comedians. The Gamergate stuff's fascinating. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to claim that I know the ins and outs of it. With all this feminist crap being shoved down your throat about how the patriarchy, blah, 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 it wasn't engineers that spoke up. It wasn't doctors that spoke up. It was video game players. They had enough of being told they're pieces of crap by the very press and the very game companies that were taking their money. They got fed up. And look how they were maligned for it. Now you got comedians. Go look at Ricky Gervais at the Emmys, lighting them up. Stop it. Stop talking about politics. No one cares what you have to say. You're some of the most privileged people in the world. Just shut your mouth and accept your award. Look at Dave Chappelle's last stand-up special. Now, you might think these people are offensive. They're left-wing, both of them. You might think they're offensive or not like their comedy or whatever. I happen to like both of them. But you see how they're leaving the plantation? You see how they're like, mm-mm. And of course it would be comedy. Comedy has a rich tradition of fighting censorship. Now when a kid sees Dave Chappelle, I love Dave Chappelle, I love the Chappelle Show, I love this. And they look up and they're like, oh, what's this? He's basically lighting up all these left-wing causes, transgender, abortion. Did you see his bit in abortion? Right? Like, let me tell you the two jokes, just two Dave Chappelle jokes. He starts off his set like this, right? And it's important how he does it. It's very smart. He says, I'm going to do 2 impressions for you. I never do these. Here's my first impression of the Founding Fathers. Hey, N-word, did you finish that declaration yet? Right? Now, you might be like, oh, that's offensive, whatever. But he's setting something up, right? And there is some truth that probably as a black man that he has of the idea of back then white people benefiting from black people. So I don't mind it. There is truth in comedy. But he sets it up because the next impression he says is this. Okay, now the next impression, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to guess. You ready? And the crowd's like, yeah. And he says, I'm going to look, I don't like the fact that you're famous or that you have something or created something. So I'm going to go back in history and I'm going to look at your tweets and I'm going to look at your yearbook and I'm going to ruin your life because I don't like what you're doing. Who am I? And you know what the crowd yells? Trump! And he says, no, I'm you, the audience. Cancel culture. And it's amazing because he set it up. He told the left-wing joke first. Then he tells this joke, and who do they blame? Trump, the exact opposite of who he's criticizing. And then he tells a joke about abortion. He says, listen, guys, her body, her choice. You have no right whatsoever. If she wants that abortion, you have no right to say anything. I totally agree with that. The women are all, yeah, everyone's applauding wildly. He's like, but then I have a choice too as the dad. If my choice is to not pay for that baby, I should be allowed to make that choice. Now, I'm not sure he believes either of those things, but the point is the absurdity of saying my body, my choice. If you get some special privilege based on your gender, okay. These are against their traditional orthodoxy. He got tore apart by the left-wing press. So did Ricky Gervais. They're starting to wake up. And the younger generations, I'm telling you, this college generation, they're scary, as you see. Not everyone, but a lot of them. But the generation below them are starting to wake up. They're starting to see the absurdity. This is our time to fight back in the culture wars. One of the things I tell young people all the time is, here's why you should be conservative. Or, even if you don't want to be conservative, here's why you should run like hell from the establishment Democratic Party. Are you ready? Because they are going to ruin your life at some point. Have you ever said a defensive joke? Have you ever done a regrettable decision? Maybe awkwardly tried to kiss a girl at a party or something while you were drunk, or a guy, whatever. Man, woman, it doesn't matter. All of us have. None of us are perfect. And I've had people tell me, I've never done anything. Everything I've done, I have no problem. Garbage. We've all done something, particularly when we were younger. I've done tons. I could fill up just shows talking about stupid things I've done. They'll ruin your life. All it takes is one misstep. You're constantly on eggshells. You'd be 40, 50 years, you're in good standing. You're working at Google, doing good, bringing home a paycheck, got a wife and kids. Everything's right. You yelled at the Trump supporters. You yelled at the conservatives. You donated your money to Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, she'll be president then or whatever. You did everything right. But then you were at karaoke night with your coworkers one day and you said a joke that was slightly offensive. Just like that, done. You lose your job, you lose your livelihood, you lose your reputation, you can't hang out with the same people anymore. Then they start going through tweets you've made for the past 30 years. Then they start going through your yearbook from 20, 30 years ago. Young people understand that. That's what you're signing up for. You get that? Compare that to us. I heard you told an offensive joke. Yeah, okay. Anyways, moving on. Of course they're feminizing men. It's one of the things they do. There used to be, there is, particularly with young boys, this is part of the agenda of saying, oh, there's no difference between boys and girls. So what they do is they set girls as the standard in elementary school because they tend to mature faster. And so things when we were young that used to consider guys are playing tag out at recess and there's a little rough and tumble. That used to just be considered general behavior for boys. Now they get you put on Ritalin. Now they get you expelled from the school. They drug you, they punish you until you don't act with any amount of testosterone whatsoever. Competition is bad. Everyone gets a trophy. Girls are the standard. Oh, SJG, it's always Tuesday night, 11 p.m., man. And 11 p.m. till 1. But yeah, if you do your show, if you're still up at 1, I know you're West Coast, I'll ask everyone to go over there. SJG's great. That's what they're about. Man, I had 5 topics to get to today, and I'm just going to go off on this one the entire time. That's fine, though. We need to be reaching out to these groups. We need to be winning back the culture war. It's not just a matter of put up yard signs, we won this election. Trump won, we win. That's not it. They're playing a longer game. And you can see it, right? It's easy to see the game with illegal immigration. Because you see the demographic change. That's easy to understand. You get what that is, right? They're trying to wipe out the middle class and traditional people that believe in constitutional values by bringing people in from countries that they know don't have those values, allowing them to come in illegally, and then eventually giving them the right to vote so they can take over your vote. That's what's going on. You know that. They're playing a longer game than we are. We're playing the how can we win in 2020. They're playing the how can we win in 2040 and forever. That's the game they're playing. Or how do we make it so it doesn't even matter if we win because we control all of culture. That's the game they're playing. And I can't wake up Republicans to this. Not you people, I'm not talking about you, but the Republicans I talk to in real life. It doesn't matter that you're in a band and you say, by the way, I'm a Republican. I'm not saying that. But it's time to stop playing defense. And it shouldn't be up to people like me and you. But it is. That's the truth. Because we made a mistake. Who is your Republican representative? What are they doing on this front? What are they doing on any front? They're not defending against the coup very well, are they? So because our elected officials won't do anything, it's up to us. Here's some things you could start doing. Stop apologizing. Period. Are you a racist? I'm not. Are you a bigot? I'm not. So I'm not going to let someone tell me that I'm a racist or a bigot. I'm not going to stand for it. It's a ridiculous accusation. I'm not going to dignify it by pretending to grovel or apologize. It's garbage. I don't care if I tell a racist joke. I'll apologize to an individual if I say something that offends an individual. But I'm not going to apologize to some mob at all, ever. No. Stop being on the defensive. It's sickening to me. It really is. Right, SJG. Right, and Ken, that's the point. If you assume, for example, oftentimes, I say this all the time, these establishment people accuse you of the very things they do. So I hear this all the time, right? If I'm against kind of the war on poverty programs, which I am, then I'm a racist. I don't want affirmative action, then I'm a racist. The implication is, I don't want to give free money to people, therefore I must not like those people. When the truth is the exact opposite. I do care about people in the inner city. I think it's a damn shame that the war on poverty has incentivized victimhood and the idea that they don't have to go out and get skills and stuff to achieve. So generations of people in these inner cities, it's been encouraged to have single parenthood, things like that, because we'll give you money. Larry Elder talks about this. He's a black conservative. He remembers being in the inner city as a child, and the government came and knocked on their door and said, look, if the man's not in the household, we'll give you government money. In the early 60s, there was a report done by a Democrat named Moynihan. It was called the Moynihan Report. And it said that it was an outrage that black Americans, 25% were born under wedlock. And so LBJ instituted the war on poverty. You know what the number's at today? Like 75%. It's not much better for other races. It's over 50% for white people. Now, does this mean black people are inferior? No! Absolutely not. I say this all the time. If I was born and someone told me I was a victim the whole time, and I lived in a crazy place where it was dangerous to even walk out in my front yard, it was dangerous to go to school, I know what I would have done. I would have got involved with those gangs. So I'm not making any claim like that. It sucks. There were injustices done. I'm not going to deny it. But an injustice continues. Treating people like babies, saying that, oh, we need to take care of you. Don't worry, you're a special victim. You're special. The world owes you everything. Everyone's out to get you. Everything's racist. That's not helping. That's keeping people in a childlike or a pet-like state. That's not what I'm about. I'm about looking at people and saying, look, I'm not going to treat you different because of your skin color at all. And I know it sucks that you, for generations, went through Jim Crow. And then for generations after that, you went through the government incentivizing you not getting an education, having to grow up in a single-parent household, having to deal with these crazy public school system that's, it's like a war zone. That sucks. But all we could do going forward from here on out is saying, we will treat everyone equally by the content of their character. That's all we could do. That's the best way to solve it. Yet I'm told that I'm a racist if I don't want to continue the disastrous policies that have made things so much worse. That all of a sudden I'm a racist. So my answer is I'm not a racist. And if you think that I automatically, because I have a different way of helping black people, means I'm a racist, then I think that's probably you projecting your racism. That's what I think. Hopefully I'm not the tubby load of S you're talking about, Frankie. I don't think so, but they want obedient. Serfs is a good word. They want feudalism. They want us all to grovel to them. They're our intellectual and moral superiors. They'll give us bread. They'll give us circuses, but we better not criticize them. That's what they want. And I'm with you, Duke. And we all have to have personal responsibility, even on that level. But when the entire public narrative is you're a victim, it's hard to wake up from that. It's intoxicating. What if you woke up and nothing was ever your fault? And you had moral righteousness on your side, that every mistake, every bad thing that happened to you in your life was because the entire system was set up against you. And you've been told that since day one. You might start to believe it. Now, we know from our lives what happens when we don't take personal responsibility. I don't care what your position in life is. You could be terminally ill. Still, the best way to have the most successful life, and I'm not talking arbitrary definitions of success. I'm talking real, tangible stuff. Important relationships, benefiting society, your own happiness. The best way to deal with it, no matter how terrible your situation and what curveball life throws you, is personal action and personal responsibility. But if you're taught the opposite from day one, it's hard to break out of. It really is. But I think that, like SJG was saying, the Democrats are collapsing. Now's an opportunity for us to talk about why this is terrible. Not just at the political level, but at the cultural level. Putin made me fart. Yeah, Putin, yeah. Yeah, that's the old, right? I have 38 people watching. It's great. I can't believe it. Normally I have 2 months ago I'd be doing this live stream, have 5 people watching. So thank you all so much. But the reason I only have 38 is because of Putin. The Russians. You see it in the political right arena. That's what the Democrats do. Nothing's their fault. It's Russians. It's Trump. It's not their fault. They didn't lose an election. It was stolen. You see? That's what they're teaching your kids. Not just the inner city communities, mind you. It's what they're teaching everyone. Cultural Marxism and identity politics is about separating us so we're not an individual. You're just a series of groups. I say this all the time. I'm not Rob Noah, an individual that's unique, and there's never been anyone like me in the world. Just like there's never ever been anyone like any of you. I'm white. I'm male. I'm straight. Fat. That makes me impressed, right? And those groups you decide, is that an oppressor or is that an oppressed? And what you're encouraged to do through something called intersectionality, because they realize you don't want women saying, we're most oppressed, while black people say, no, we're most oppressed. And then the LGBT say, but we're most oppressed. And the Muslims say, but we're most oppressed. And the disabled say, no, it's us, we're most oppressed. That doesn't work. You got to build a coalition. So you say, whatever you're oppressed, however you're oppressed, you're all one big oppressed group. And then you hate all those oppressors. That's the idea. The biggest benefit you can have is being a victim. It's being oppressed. That's your strength. Starting to sound like 1984 yet? Oppression is power. Ignorance is knowledge. Freedom is slavery. War is peace. Doublespeak. Read 1984. That's exactly what it is. Victimhood is power. That's how they've changed the dichotomy. And so they seek to indoctrinate people from this at an early age. It's not, don't be mistaken. It's not just, based on race or based on gender or based on, it's anything. That's the lesson that's learned. That's why you see that girl in that video yelling at Caitlyn, you don't know what it's like to be oppressed. What are you talking about? How do you know? Imagine the hubris it takes to look at someone, know nothing about them, and based on appearance or maybe a few videos you've seen of them on YouTube, say, I know you well enough to say you've never been oppressed. Imagine the hubris that takes. You would never have the nerve. How do you know? She could have been assaulted, sexually assaulted by a predator as a child. How do you know? You don't know. But because you've been indoctrinated by this education system your whole life, by our culture your whole life, oppression is just what you can see. It's those categories. She's white. She wasn't oppressed. Now, she's a woman. Maybe that would have been something to say, well, what about, I'm a woman. I thought women were oppressed. Here's the game, right? And here's what none of them ever tell you. I don't have to tell you why this game's stupid, cultural Marxism. We're all individuals. These groups mean nothing to me. You might as well separate yourself by your horoscope. That's how little it means to me. Okay, you're black, I don't care. Okay, you're lady, I don't care. Your actions, the content of your character, that's what I care about, right? That's it. I don't have to explain that to you. But here's 2 things that you might find interesting. There's a never-ending regression of victimhood, right? And I've talked about this before. So let's say black's a victim, right? But here comes a black woman. Oh, woman's a victim. So black woman, more oppressed than just black. But disabled black woman, more oppressed than just black woman. But disabled black woman who's Muslim. But what about disabled black woman, Muslim, lesbian? Disabled black woman, Muslim, lesbian, transgender. The ultimate victim, the ultimate oppressed person, you ready for this? Is the individual. Because what the oppressed is marginalized. There's no one like me. Oh, I'm black, I'm a minority, therefore, I'm women, which even though women are the majority in this country, it's conceived power-wise a minority. Muslim minority, blah, 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 blah. The ultimate minority is the individual because there's no one like you. So if you're seeking to claim victimhood status, each individual is a victim. And then this might blow your mind, but if we're all victims, no one's a victim. Stupid to have to say that. And so eventually they'll get around to being like, oh yeah, individuality. That's the end of their game. That's the end of cultural Marxism. It's individuality. Where we're at now. But there's another secret they don't tell you. Even if we look at it on their level and we say, okay, your race matters. White oppressor, black oppressed. Male oppressor, female oppressed. Here's the dirty little secret that they don't want to tell you when they're talking about privilege and victimhood. It turns out that all of these categories, so let's just take white, the race white, they're oppressors and oppressed simultaneously. The same is true of black. The same is true of your genders, male or female. The same is true of straight and LGBT. The same is true of Christian and Muslim. It's absolutely true. There is no one group in any of those categories that is always the oppressor or that is always the oppressed, ever. But they can't tell you that. They have to pretend like that's not the case. They look at it like it's a caricature, like a cartoon. The oppressed are Papa Smurf, the oppressor's Gargamel. That's how they have to look at it. One-dimensional. And that's not life. It's a gross oversimplification. For example, if I'm driving down the road and I get pulled over by the cops, statistically, there could be an advantage to being white. I won't deny that. But if I'm applying for Harvard, it's better to be black. By the way, if I get pulled over by the cop, you know what's even more important than being white in order to get out of a ticket? Being a woman. But no one says, oh, our law enforcement is misandrist. No one says that. They say it's racist, though. Where are you? What country you are? What's your geographic location? What's your cultural location? What time is it? Things were different 20 years ago than they are now, etc. All of this stuff's fluid. It's all fluid. And they act like, no. It's this group oppressor, this group oppressed. And that's garbage. You can't even keep up with it. They're falling apart at the seams with this garbage. Literally, half of the Democratic Party believes not just that they don't want a wealthy person, but being wealthy is immoral. And there should not be a right to be a person that accumulates wealth of a certain measure. That's half the Democratic Party. The other half says we're having the richest person ever run for president literally try to buy the election. That's the Democratic Party. They're at total odds with each other. But what keeps them united? The oppressor, Donald Trump. He's evil. Why? Who cares? He's evil. And I read about Bloomberg's strategy, right? Bloomberg surrounded himself with fantastic political operatives. And he's basically been told, don't you talk about one issue. Don't talk about any issue. Don't talk about your immigration stance. Don't talk about your healthcare stance. One thing you talk about, you hate Donald Trump. That's it. And it's working. The party that just spent 4 years telling you that being a billionaire is immoral is going to vote for a billionaire. Because of identity politics. Because of cultural Marxism. Now, once you see how people that hate billionaires could be complete allies with billionaires, now you understand how people that claim to speak up for the LGBT community could be totally supportive of Iran. They'll say our country is homophobic. That's just a complete lie. But Iran isn't. Iran's an ally. When anyone with half a brain just looks at it and be like, this is incredible. It's the exact opposite of the truth. Just like they'll tell you, we're the party against billionaires, so vote for Mike Bloomberg. That's what this stuff does to your brain. That's how you can have a girl shoving Caitlyn Bennett saying, stop pushing me, stop pushing me. You starting to see how this all makes sense? It brainwashes people because it's like a drug. Like, I would love to talk to, like, someone who understands, like, chemistry of the brain. Is there some dopamine or something that's released when you get to claim to be a victim? Something triggers in your head. It's like, oh, yes, I'm a victim. But it's powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, it's unbelievable. Go ahead, ask anyone you've seen on Twitter, wherever. Why is Caitlyn Bennett a Nazi? What did she did that makes her a bigot? I found 3 things she did. NRA, supports gun rights, okay. Pro-life, okay. Agreed with both those. And she asked people about the transgender agenda. Agreed. My stance on transgender is this. Maybe one of you are transgender. You come have a beer with me. I don't care in the least bit. Fine. Don't care. If you personally ask me to address you that's fine. I'll do that for you personally. But I'm not going to buy into this agenda that men are different than women. Being transgender is some sort of mental disorder. It's true. I'm not going to treat you like crap because of it, though. I know people that are bipolar. I don't treat them like crap because they're bipolar. Heck, I'm probably autistic to some level. Just look at me. I'm not, it's something that happens. People have depression, and I'll treat them like crap because they have depression. And if it helps you and you make the personal decision to want to be transgender, that's fine. I'm not going to judge you as an individual. I'm not. I'll still be nice to you. I'll be your friend. I don't care. But don't ask me to not believe reality. Don't ask me to say that men are no different than women and we can interchange and change when we want. That's garbage. Don't start telling me that men that claim to be women should be allowed to compete in female sports. Don't start telling me that we need to talk about the sexualization and giving hormones to children. That's evil. I draw the line there. That's not bigoted. I don't care how much they try to say that's bigoted. It is not bigotry. It's not even bigotry to say, I think that I don't support you being transgender because I think it's bad for your health. Just like it's not bigoted to say, hey, Rob, you're fat. That's bad for your health. It's not bigoted. I know, Sandy, it sucks. That stuff happens. All I can say is try to do your best to not ruin personal relationships over politics. I have great friends that hate Trump, despise Trump. They don't want to hear politics from me at all. I try to be conciliatory, and I hope that somewhere, even if it takes 30 years, that me showing that I'm a decent person and I sincerely have the political beliefs I have will maybe subconsciously show them at some point, even if it's years, you know what, maybe that everyone that believes that isn't a terrible person. But that's the only advice I could give. Ken R. Will Bernie Bros turn violent if he loses? Yes, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if it's stolen from him. I mean, they basically did in 2016. Remember, it's been whitewashed now. Maybe you forget, but in the convention, they were burning the American flag. There was like a low-level kind of mob mentality going on outside. But they were pacified because their man, Bernie, took that second lake house and was okay with the corruption. And he took the lake house because, one, he's a greedy hypocrite. But second, because I bet they told him, you'll have your chance. And now they're going to screw him again. And this time, it won't matter if Bernie says, don't get upset. It's still the 1%. It's Donald Trump. We need to support Mike Bloomberg over Donald Trump. It won't work this time. His supporters they're on to the grift. Heck, there'll be violence if Bernie wins. They don't care. If Trump wins, there's going to be violence. There was last time. If Bernie loses the primary, there'll be violence. They created this monster. They fear it. They do. The college administrators, same thing. They stoked this fire. They stoked it. The violence is okay. It's okay. It's okay to punch a Nazi. Yeah, those evil right-wingers. That's right. It was their little Frankenstein that they could unleash on the conservatives. It was fine. But now it's turning on them. And it's not fine. I talked about this in 2016 at the Democrat convention when Sarah Silverman came on the stage and said, get over it, Bernie supporters. Do you see? They had no problem when the Bernie supporters were disrupting conservative events, yelling, screaming, harassing people. But as soon as they started to do it at the DNC, just like that, at the flip of a hat, It's time to get on board with Hillary. Stop being childish. That's what they said. You might not remember because of the news cycle. I remember. I remember writing about it at the time. The Bernie thing, yeah. I'm not as good as Dustin Gold. I don't know. Now, see, it's one of those things. Once people tell me to do it, I don't know if I can. We need breadlines. Breadlines are very moral. The 1% must go against Donald Trump. And see, I'm screwing it up. I'm not doing as good. You guys put me on the spot. But, yeah, of course there'll be violence. I mean, I'm doing great, PDX Scout. Thanks for being here. So, yeah, I'll wrap it up here. I got like 10 minutes. Topless Bernie supporter sounds not interesting. Yeah, I mean, who are you cheering for? Right? You're objective, probably. Most of you are probably Trump supporters or independent. So you're kind of objective when it comes to the Democrats. Let's say, for whatever reason, Trump's going to lose, and you have to pick. Who would you rather have, Bernie or Bloomberg? Or Buttigieg, someone like Bloomberg like that. It's a tough choice, right? On one hand, you have a corrupt oligarch that bought an election, which is possibly the most dangerous thing we've seen in this country since, I don't know, the FBI being weaponized by Barack Obama. A corrupt oligarch that will continue apace the disastrous policies of Barack Obama, the foreign regime change wars, the corruption, etc. Then you got Bernie, an avid socialist who will completely destroy the economy, whose supporters, not all of them, but a chunk of them, are so zealous and so violent, they'll beat anyone who disagrees with them and with total moral righteousness while they do it. Which devil are you picking there? In a weird way, I cheer for Bernie because it's like, as bad as he is, it's not just that his policies are terrible or that his supporters, some of them are dangerous. It's more than that. Because even with that, I could say, well, if he's trying to fight the establishment, it's that he's a corrupt hypocrite. But even in that world, I'm still like, even there, I can't cheer for people to steal an election. Even with Bernie. No, I can't do it. So I guess I would cheer for Bernie over Bloomberg. That would lead to communism. I mean, here's the thing. Bernie's handlers, if they're not going to let him win, and if he does win, they're not going to leave him do communism. There will be some sort of big government that benefits the wealthy Democrat donors. That's what it'll be. They're not going to AOC it and take all the money from these wealthy Democrats. They're not going to do it. They're not going to have Bernie say, okay, now it's immoral to be a billionaire. You can't be a billionaire. Won't happen. They'll make the government bigger. They'll target conservatives, sure. They'll go after them. But the billionaire class, so it's not going to be full-fledged communism. It'll be some amalgamation that's terrible and destroys the country, but, Yeah, my voice does crack. And it's because I've been yelling. I got a cold a month ago, and I've been yelling ever since. And now my voice cracks when I yell. Like I'm going through puberty again. Right, Ladybug, I agree. A lot of Bernie supporters do hate America and want it destroyed. Not all of them, though. I have to be honest. Just like not all Trump supporters are good people. They're not. I don't know what the percentage. Look, again, in the interest of total fairness, go back and watch my video on Cal Jurek. That was the first person that Project Veritas called out. It was a Bernie campaign aide who was saying Trump supporters should be put in gulags and blah, blah, blah. What did I say at the time? I said, I don't blame Bernie for this. I said it right in my video, right in my live stream. I said, look, be realistic. You can't know if you're running a campaign, every single person that works in your campaign. You can't. And so, I don't blame Bernie for this. But then the second person came out, and the third person, and the fourth person, and the fifth person. And at that point, I'm still not blaming Bernie. But Bernie, I think it was incumbent to come out and say, like, whoa. No. This isn't what I'm about. But he steadfastly refused, and the media covered for him. And the Bernie bros love that. They loved the favorable coverage by the media. The Bernie Bros loved when the media was corrupt against Donald Trump. They loved it. But as soon as the Bernie Bros found out, and just like that, they'll turn on your guy. Now all of a sudden they're appalled. They had no problem when the DNC was being corrupt going after Trump. As soon as they do it to Bernie, now they're appalled. Now instead of saying, I told you so, I'm looking at them and I'm like, hey, okay, it's time to start fighting the corruption. It's time to maybe self-reflect and say, geez, maybe all that crap they did to Trump was unfair too. But 95% of them don't self-reflect like that, and so away we go with the corruption. No, Bernie never disavowed those Project Veritas videos. Not once. He finally spoke up with this catering situation. I don't know if you read about this, but in Nevada, the largest culinary union, which is a big part of the Democratic Party in Nevada because all of the hotels and casinos there. So there's this big union. And basically, Bernie Bros just started viciously attacking them. They're terrible because they didn't come out and support Medicare for all. And so Bernie then, when he thought it could cost him politically in his base, he spoke up. But again, he's a hypocrite. He only speaks up with the outrageous behavior and the calls for violence when he thinks it benefits him politically. When he thinks it benefits him politically to allow those calls for violence, then he allows them. That's who Bernie is. That's radical socialism, by any means necessary. And unlike Pelosi or Schumer or Warren or Bloomberg, they're fake. They don't believe what they say. They'll say anything for a vote. Bernie believes his crap, and his supporters definitely believe it. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, many Dems are turning color. Look, again, I say this. It's not a time to celebrate as Republicans. It's not a time to celebrate as Trump supporters. To me, we all have our different thing. Dustin Gold, Doug Ducote, great friends of mine that do the Patriot panel. Illegal immigration, huge deal. American Joe, Second Amendment. Right? Drone tech focuses on media corruption. All of them, it's hard to say what the most important issue is. You can make a case for all of them. For me, it's corruption. That's my personal. I'm not downplaying any of that other stuff, but it's all intertwined. But for me, no matter what your issue is, if your issue is illegal immigration, you could get out the vote and get 100 million people to vote your way on it. But if there are corrupt people behind the scenes that could take down the president if he tries to enact that, and that are acting as kingmakers, making sure the people they want get elected, then your vote doesn't matter. And what you believe is your issue doesn't matter. If illegal immigration is your issue, you could say, look, it doesn't matter if you end the corruption. If you continue to allow illegal immigrants and demographic change, eventually they'll have enough votes to just vote the corruption back in. That's true as well. You could look at media corruption and say, it doesn't matter how much you're out there grassroots. If the media is able to censor us and take away our First Amendment and control the access to the information, no matter how articulate you are, you won't convince people of the corruption. That's true too. You could make the call for the Second Amendment, but if you don't have the right to defend yourself, then any injustice could be enacted upon you and you're helpless to defend yourself. So it's the basic human right to be able to have a right to defend yourself, and they're trying to take that away. That's true too. My area of expertise happens to be the corruption, I think. And I do other stuff. I'm kind of an expert in everything, so says this quarter here. But we need to end that corruption. And I don't care if you believe in some grand plan or if you have total faith in Trump and Bill Barr. I'm looking right now, and I'm telling you right now, as we speak right now, no matter what you tell me about some sort of plan, and I hope you're right about some sort of plan, but no matter what you tell me, that corruption is existing tonight in Washington, unabated. Just like it was yesterday, just like the day before, and just like it'll be tomorrow. No, maybe eventually it'll stop. And when it stops, then I'll celebrate. But until then, I'm going to fight tooth and nail. I'm going to do what I can, what I personally can, to inform people of the corruption, to speak out against the fact that I'm seeing the corrupt be allowed to walk free. That's what I'm going to do. Hopefully, it's all proven that my efforts weren't needed because Barr already has it all wrapped up. Great. I'll be happy to have wasted my time. But I'm going to keep fighting. I'm not going to celebrate. I'm not going to say, because I know that corruption's there, Trump's got it locked up in 2020, so we could just sit back, drink some champagne. I'm not going to say it. I see a vulnerable establishment Democratic Party, and instead of saying we could win in 2020, I'm saying we could start to root this corruption out for decades. We could start to reach out to these Democratic voters and say, look, you've been screwed over. This is corruption. The people that run this party. And you have a right to be distrusting of us, because oftentimes we as conservatives didn't reach out to you. But we're here now, and here's our message. We're not changing our message for you. We're not pandering for you. Here's what we're offering. And you're not going to vote for us this time. I get it. I don't think that Bernie people that are getting screwed over are all of a sudden going to go, you know what, screwed, I'll vote for Donald Trump. But maybe when we talk to them next year, and then the year after that, and the year after that, maybe they start to say, wow, these people are real. They're not just treating me like a vote. They actually care about me. Maybe inner city people will start to realize that. Maybe young people will start to realize that. Instead of the current plan of, well, we've given up on certain demographics, we've given up on the culture war, but we got this election wrapped up. So I'm not celebrating anything. And maybe that seems like I'm a miserable person that will never be happy, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I love doing what I can to help out, and I have a great family life. I'm a very happy person. That could be true, preacher. And I know I've talked to people that are, there's things Trump did. And the problem is, if you put all this faith, there could be things, right, that's going on now that's unacceptable. I want to read through the USMCA. I've been talking to some people, and they have concerns. Now, I can't speak to them right now because I like to read the bill myself before I speak to them. And I've been so busy with these stories that, I haven't got to that. I have concerns about, is Barr rooting out the deep state? I have concerns with the deficit spending that Trump's doing. So it's not about a person. Even me. Don't look at me and say, I believe everything Rob says. He's so handsome. How could he be wrong? You should verify stuff yourself. But you are right about the handsome part. That is true. It does lend to my credibility. But it's more, and you're right, Paul. We do need to get out and vote, but it's more than that. Run for office. Don't assume just because your representative's a Republican that they're fighting for the people, the average normal American. Don't assume that at all. That's why I'm running in 2022. Unless I see my representative make a change to start speaking out against this coup and to start speaking up more for normal Americans, I'm going to run against them. I might not win. I'll be going against the Republican establishment. I don't care. I'm not going to assume, you have an R next to your name, you must be good. Now, I'll vote Republican, don't get me wrong. Can I read as fast as I can talk? Oh, yeah. Kenneth, it's everywhere. It really is. Robert De Niro, that's true. So, all right, I should wrap it up. I do sleep, believe it or not. So, let me wrap it up by saying, I always like to wrap up the topic. I actually had 5 topics. I got to 1. I kind of hit on Bloomberg. Good one. I don't know if you guys kind of flew under the radar. Did you see the story about the NHS in Britain, their National Health Service? So they passed a law that says you can be refused access to your universal health care except for life-threatening procedures if they determine that you're a bigot or you're intolerant. Do you see? Do you see what's happening? Medicare for all, right? We don't like your politics. Sorry. We made it illegal for you to have private insurance. And now we say you have to follow our politics or you can't even use the insurance that you had to pay for with your taxes. Do you see what's happening? So I'll try to do a video on that maybe tomorrow. So if I could ask you all's help just for a second. If you follow the description on this page, you can see how you can support me on Patreon and PayPal. You can also give super chats now because I'm monetized. I didn't see if anyone gave a super chat because I just ramble on and on and on. If you did, I'm incredibly grateful. And I hope that the mods called it out that you gave one. So thank you. If you're on DLive, I guess you can give me lemons. I don't know how that works yet, but I'll make lemonade. That's fine. Always with too much sugar, though. But yeah, so you can support me there. You can support me even more than that. If you can't give money, no problem. I'm still going to do the show. But There's so much stuff I need. It's just ridiculous. I need access to podcast format, access to StreamYard. I need better equipment. I need a computer. This one, you can hear that. It's because my computer's fan's so loud, and I'm using kind of, everyone's like, thumbnails. When you're doing videos, you got to do thumbnails. I'm still using like Google Paint or Microsoft Paint for thumbnails. It's a joke. So I need editing software, and I'm trying to do it the right way and not just download it for free and stuff like that. So, because me and my stupid ethics, but anyways, so yeah, you can support me by giving money, but if you can't, no problem. Please, I encourage you, try to follow me on DLive if you're on YouTube or Facebook. If you're on Facebook, I encourage you, go to my YouTube channel, go to YouTube and just type in Normal America with Robert Knorr. And you'll see my YouTube channel. All the links from there, DLive, Twitter, everything like that will be on there. So, and most importantly, like, if you really can, if you see something that you like, I do. These live streams are hard. I'm not going to lie to you. If you tell your friend, hey, watch this chubby guy ramble on for 2 hours, probably a hard sale. But if you see one of my smaller videos, like the intro video, it's now up on my channel that I did, and you think that's a message that would resonate with people, please, I ask you, can you share it with people, whether it be on social media or tell your friend or whatever? Because I am trying to grow this message. Yes, because I'm selfish. That's partially true. But also because I am really trying to do my best to reach out, to grow our party, to fight against this corruption. Not just our party, but to grow our movement. Even with people on the left. Even with people that would disagree with me. I really am trying. And I think I do it effectively. And if you agree, I would really appreciate if you, reach out to other people with some of my stuff. So, yeah, pick one of those smaller videos. The one on Bernie's good. The one on this crazy Caitlin Bennett story is good. My intro video that's up there is good. And I really appreciate it. I really would. In many ways, that's more important to me than the financial donations, because I think growing the channel is something that will get done. What's up, Ken? I see you there. Oh, see, I don't know how to link the chat. I get you. So, Heavy Crew on DLive, I always forget this. Heavy Crew on DLive says link to the chats. I don't know how to do that. I'll figure it out. I swear I will by next week. Like, because I see other people. So, there's a way to get this chat that you can't see that's just off screen to my right. There's a way to get, like, a shadow of that, right? That would go on my actual video. I'll get to my man SJG and Chirby. They'll know how to do that. So, yeah, sorry about that. The poor people on DLive. I'm responding to YouTube comments, not reading what the comments are. The leftists on Above Top Secret are a waste of time. They never budge. Yes, but no. They do two things. One, maybe secretly you can convince one, even if it's only one. And, But second, they hone me. I love talking to people that disagree with me because it makes my argument better. And I'm not always right. So sometimes when I hear that's what I loved about debate. That's why, like, I don't know. I hope you guys think that I'm intelligent when it comes to this stuff. And I think my specialty is being able to break it down in a way that makes sense to the average person. I'm not sitting here talking some crazy economic theory or some crazy, convoluted 15 steps to corruption. I could break it down real simple. That comes from debate. That comes from talking to people that disagree with me all the time, because I realize, what did they say that was effective? What did they say that could potentially answer what I'm saying? What would resonate most likely for them? What would resonate most likely for a judge? So I do like talking to people that disagree with me. But yeah, there are some lost causes, maybe. I think someone said this above. Let me check. Yeah, talking about lemons and stuff on DLive. But look, the other thing is this. Maybe you tuned in tonight for the first time, and I will wrap up after this. Maybe you tuned in tonight for the first time, and you're like, okay, but support someone else that's an independent content. Create your own channel. Really, I think that it's that important to have independent content creators to take away from their gatekeeping and their total control of the narrative. I think that each independent content creator, even if you're on the left, even if you're someone who disagrees with me about a lot of this stuff, at least the chances of you actually caring about people as an independent content creator are better than if you're in the establishment. So, support who you can. The two things that I want to take away from this video that I was getting to is, three things. One is the cultural infestation of our education system and just how dangerous these mobs are. Second, that danger is amplified and even scarier because the establishment and groups like the mayors or the administrators tell the police to allow this abuse to go unpunished. And third, we need to defund every university that does this. If you take one thing away from it, take that. Spread that like wildfire. Make it viral. Defund the universities. So, wrapping up, 30 minutes later. Yeah, what's up, Ford Nation? We can talk another 30 minutes. But yeah, thank you all so much. As always, I'm humbled that anyone wants to listen to me. Thank you all so much for your input. I'm sorry I don't get to the chat as much as I can. Maybe if my channel grows and it's something I could do more full time, I could have like an assistant and they could help me out with that. But I'm years away from that, trust me. So I wish I had more money to put into it. As it is, I'm working 80-something hours a week, so it's hard for me to have the time to put that sort of stuff into it. So thank you. I really am. I appreciate each and every one of you, even if you disagree with me. You guys are the best. I'll be back. I'll be doing videos tomorrow morning. Maybe I'll do a live stream. I think tomorrow I might have a debate lined up on Drone Tech's channel with someone that thinks apparently that Trump is not hard enough on Russia, that he's paid by Putin. I don't think it'll go well for that person, but it'll be fun to watch, and I'll be polite as I argue against that. So thank you all. I really appreciate it, and enjoy this great elevator music rendition of Midnight Special as my end credits roll. Good night, everyone. Have a good one.